Chapter 1121, Gift. Chapter 1121, Gift. Proofreader. Papatonks. Humph, you almost sound genuine saying that. In that case, you must be quite along the way of the sword then, being so sincere and all. Long Genshan's voice dripped with sarcasm, just a little stronger than average. That's why you're halfway in the profound heaven stage while we sit at the peak of the radiant stage. So that's how. You went and wasted the past century on swordsmanship, crippling your progress in cultivation so much that the juniors overcame you by a mile. Long Genshan felt so superior right then, brimming with pride. Qiao's eyes were icy, her mind holding nothing but scorn for him, nitwit. Luo Siphon's glare bore into him. Long Genshan, have you no respect for your elders? She then gave a deep bow in apology. Blind uncle, forgive him. He's been spoiled rotten. I offer my apologies in his place. No need. I've seen this chubbis belligerent and arrogant type these years, more than I could count. Zhuo Fan waved her off. I admit that most of the time the past century was focused on understanding the sword and I have stagnated my cultivation. I had no choice but to switch priorities. Having known nothing at all, I had to double my focus to answer that challenge. Ha! A profound heaven cultivator challenged. Tell me of your adversary and I'll handle it, no problem. Long Genshan, enough. Luo Siphon preened, only to have Luo Siphon talk him down. Xian Yenyang was more amazed by the second. Senior, I'm incomplete or by your glorious insights into the sword after deciding to focus on it, and so late too. I've never seen a more perfect spiritual sword refined even by a grandmaster. They look so alive. Hey, you got good eyes there, to feel the life inside the blades. Yes, these years were all focused on understanding the sword by refining them. I would go through all 12 grades each time a new insight came. My stores soon grew to millions, while the spiritual swords themselves became more and more alive. Zhuo Fan took pride in that. I won't be long now. After my next breakthrough, I will be able to answer the century-old challenge. Long Genshan's contempt couldn't be more obvious, says the profound heaven cultivator wasting his cultivation on looking sharp. How are you going to fight, as a corpse? Spending some little effort on keeping your posture as an elegant and refined man like me is fine. The problem with you is your bland features and being blind. Who are you trying to take in with just a younger face? I've gotten far in my youth and don't need to keep it. I just kept staying like this. That's the same as my mom and dad. Unlike Steward Zhuge and Uncle Li, they spent the last century still looking the same. Luo Siphon butted in. To break them up, Long Genshan mocked in complete denial. How is that the same? In this time, Alliance Leader has grown to peak soul harmony stage. This guy used the same time and still not a day over 30 despite profound heaven cultivation. I bet he used all his efforts in keeping that lame face all along. The other two took careful peeks at Zhuo Fan. The higher the stage, the longer the life, with appearance following this trend over an even longer period. Just like how Luo Yunhai had thousands of years ahead of him as a peak soul harmony cultivator and a mere century would feel like going through childhood by comparison, thus keeping those crow's feet and wrinkles at bay while Zhuge Changfeng and the others were old to begin with before they received the chance from the Luo clan to bolster their cultivation with the help of sacred stones. They now had a long lifespan as well, but they started off late. They just kept looking the same since they never tried adjusting their appearances. Most men looked down on using such impractical and useless gimmick only a girl would care about. For women, looks were their life, going to any lengths to keep a pretty face. This was why most people that kept their youth in their later years proved that they had gotten far in their early years in cultivation, needing no touch-up. As for Zhuo Fan, a profound heaven cultivator, he looked nothing like the part of some past great achiever. Appearances could be deceiving, as Zhuo Fan had been using the true self-art that regressed his cultivation, while his true level being at peak soul harmony stage. He only got so far and not peak Genesis stage was due to switching focus on understanding the sword. Blind uncle, Long Genshan has a foul mouth, but he does make sense. Since you have a challenge, you shouldn't have focused on your appearances and having no substance. Luo Siphon gave him a bright smile. Strength grows with cultivation. Tao is reserved for the peak experts. You should be hurrying. Oh, here are some sacred stones. Please take them. Luo Siphon already took some from her ring and offered Zhuofan cut her off, looking unfazed as ever. Kids, Tao comes from the heart, not from one's cultivation. Regardless of the path you tread, inspiration and insight comes in a flash. Miss that brief and tiny window and it's never coming back. As for cultivating, that's much easier. With enough resources and time, the sky's the limit. I have spent the last century on the way of the sword and not cultivating all because I knew their value. How far the path lead is how much you can walk it, or you'll be left running in place. TCH, what right does a profound heaven cultivator have to preach to us? Long Zhenshan scorned, with the other two flinching with lost eyes at the platitude's ding. Zhuofan's hand shone and an azure long sword appeared in his hand. The powerful aura it gave left the three ignorant children gasping. This. Everblue, 1, 88 meters, 4, 9 kilograms, symbolizing the auspicious number 9, the best of its kind. As the head of the alliance, your dad is upright first and foremost. He may have a royal air, but is not forceful. Everblue connects one with the world, broadens one's kingly aura, focusing on grace and benevolence. It will be the best fit for your dad's Tao heart. Take it. Tracing the blade, Zhuofan offered it to Luo Siphon. After not seeing for so many years, this shall be my gift for his grand birthday. The juniors were blown away by the glorious azure the sword was giving. Their hearts were frantic, with even Long Zhenshan's antagonistic nature cut short. It was like the sword enchanted them. Unable to look away, Xian Yenyang finally cried out, "AA 12th grade spiritual weapon, a rarity in all the 5 lands and the most perfect kind." 12th. The other two jumped. Ha ha ha, I told you. I go through the 12 grades when refining after gaining insight. You can just take this one. Zhuofan threw it and Luo Siphon clutched it to her chest. A gentle wind blew at the trio, pushing them out of the shack. Don't tell your father about me and don't come over again. We're generations apart. Bam! The door slammed shut, with the trio shaking all over. Then they turned to the sword with increasing awe. Since when could a profound heaven cultivator push us 3 radiant stage cultivators? It makes no sense. Their hearts sank and then Luo Siphon bowed. Thank you, senior, for the great gift. I'll never forget it. I shall now take my leave and shall repay you one day for this favor. The trio walked away. She finally succeeded in getting a sword. With such a rare treasure, her dad ought to be ecstatic on his birthday. Chaoa, we're leaving. Zhuofan sighed. Chaoa asked, Father, didn't you say? The last of the 8 world wind tunnels is Sword Star Imperial Capital's Thunder Pavilion. The 5 land-wide recoil array is almost complete, waiting on the last tunnel to return us to sacred domain. Before that, I don't wish to disturb their peace. Zhuofan muttered. Chaoa nodded in understanding. Savage energies came out of nowhere, sweeping the entire town. Chaoa asked, such bloodlust can only come from a killer. What's someone like that doing in these quiet parts? Chaoa, those ignorant brats showed off their new gift and invited trouble. Go help them. Zhuofan spoke. Chaoa nodded and flew after the trio. While the blissfully ignorant trio were acting like they were on a field trip, constantly scrambling over who held the sword. Chapter 1122, Bald Demon. Chapter 1122, Bald Demon. Proofreader, Papatonks. Who do you guys think that senior is? Does he have some connection with the Luo Alliance? Never getting enough of her new toy, Luo Siphon spoke of serious matters. Long Zhenshan waved her off, as if, he must have stayed a while in Tianyu and when it got bad he came to this neck of the woods. He just knows some stuff having lived so long. What could possibly be between some profound heaven cultivator and our great Luo Alliance? It's not even funny. It's too soon to tell. Xian Yenyang spoke seriously. I've never seen any profound heaven cultivator able to refine 12th grade spiritual weapons to such perfection. Not even with the most sublime skill or immense heart, could one achieve the same at such a low cultivation. Something doesn't smell right. Smells more like a dud. Profound heaven cultivators are a dime a dozen. He must have pushed us since we were out of it and caught us by surprise. It's the only possibility that makes sense. He said it himself, focusing on the sword this century and putting cultivation on hold. The way I see it, insights are for those super strong experts. So what the hell is he fumbling around for? Have you seen anyone besides our alliance's 9 venerables deepening their insights? No, they're all out there getting stronger. That may be so, but I still feel an air of deep mystery around the blind swordsmith. Xian Yenyang's doubts were prevalent, regardless of Long Zhenshan's disregard. Long Zhenshan rolled his eyes. You call that deep? He was only playing us. I refuse to believe there's anything worth of note about a cultivator stuck in the profound heaven stage after a damn century. As the two were opinionated, Luo Siphon nodded to herself. It's nigh impossible for a profound heaven cultivator to get close to anyone of status. Ha ha ha, a 12th grade spiritual weapon, and a perfect one at that. I was out doing a little hunting and here I am with the catch of the century. A cruel and mad laugh jarred their ears. A bald old man landed not 10 meters from them, cackling, Missy, you sure have guts to flaunt a 12th grade spiritual weapon. You're practically begging to be stepped on by flaming others' greed. Hand it over if you know what's good for you. Luo Siphon shivered in fright, tightening her hold on the sword. Who are you? State your name. Yeah, do you have any idea who we are? Are you tired of living to go after our sword? Long Zhenshan shook all over from the mighty aura the man had, but did not forget to flaunt his status. The bald elder placed his hands on his hips and snickered. Brats, better not be shaking in your boots at my glorious name. Listen well, for I am the infamous bald demon of the Western Land. You're that degenerate bald demon that's been burning and murdering with no disregard for life. Luo Siphon shuddered. They say his crimes are endless and that the 9 sects couldn't even catch wind of him. Just what is he doing here of all places? Xian Yenyang bobbed his head. If he's the real bald demon, then he's in the 7th layer of Genesis stage. Few in our alliance are his match. This is bad, real bad. Ha ha ha, now you get it. Then hand it over. And while you're at it, the bald man's eyes shone with desire upon gracing Luo Siphon with a foul gaze. Miss, why don't we get to know each other better over a couple of days? I cross my heart not to keep you safe. What are you doing? Long Zhenshan jumped to shield Luo Siphon, putting an obvious tough front with all that sweat pouring out of him. Do you know who we are? You dare touch us? Do you have a death wish? Oh, I'm gushing to know. Well, what makes you so special? Is it scary? Ha ha ha, the bald man was having a blast toying with them. Long Zhenshan's face twitched, shouting, listen up and listen well. We are part of the Luo Alliance. You are in the presence of the young miss of the Luo Alliance head. Touch her and the entire alliance will be after your head. Luo Alliance's young miss. The old man eyes Luo Siphon closer. Long Zhenshan smirked. Afraid now? The hell I am. The bald guy cackled louder. What's the Luo Alliance but some oversized gang in the Western Lands? Since their turf is out, I'll just go to the other 4 lands. Besides, no matter how tough the Luo Alliance is, they won't match the Devil Palace spanning across the whole lands. Chapter 1123, Imperial Capital Gathering. Chapter 1123, Imperial Capital Gathering. Proofreader, Papa Tonks. Dad, I'm back. Qiaowa knocked before entering with a bright smile. Then she burst out in joy. Brother, how come you're here? Zhuofan was still in his chair, swaying, with Jiyu Santong sitting next to him. Qiaowa, is it wrong for a son to visit his father? Please, you think I don't know you? You just came to cut work. The only thing that changed about you is your height. Zhuofan patted his head as he joked. Jiyu Santong puffed his cheeks in annoyance. With Qiaowa giggling at the side, Zhuofan turned serious. What happened? Who came? No one special, just one of our own from the Western Lands called Bald Demon. He saw the brats and greed and lust got the best of him. I already shooed him, don't worry. Bald Demon? Zhuofan's brow shook. That geezer has a bad name, doing every vile thing imaginable. Was someone after him that he came here? Qiaowa shook her head. Can't be. The Western Lands envoy has tight control over them, avoiding conflict with the Western Lands factions. Bald Demon's heinous crimes are his alone. Coupled with his high cultivation, all factions in the Western Lands focus on self-preservation. They wouldn't go after him lest provoked. Or maybe someone's out there doing a world a favor by hunting this evil down. The thing is, there has hardly been any signs in Western Lands to point towards a manhunt. Strange. Why else would he be caught dead in this barren place? Since hiding is out, then it can only mean hunting. Zhuo Fan asked, Chower, did he follow the brats? Shouldn't be. He's too impulsive in lust to hold it in for so long. Is it for me then? Zhuo Fan mulled, ha ha ha, well isn't this interesting? My own men tracked their palace lord. Jiyu Santong widened and shouted, they have the nerve to look for palace lord. Are they ignoring their lives to breach the palace laws? Not by those honest disciples. They'd never try it. There must be someone else behind him. Zhuo Fan smirked, Chower, young Sanzi, he shouldn't be too far. Let's go for a stroll. I'm curious to know why wants to see me so much, ha ha ha. Zhuo Fan stood and left the house with his children. Jiyu Santong exclaimed then, wait, father, Uncle Dong wanted me to ask you when we'll begin the last step of the plan. Very soon. Touching his covered eyes, Zhuo Fan grinned. In the royal family's main hall of the imperial capital, Emperor Bailey Jingsha was at the head of a dozens of meters-wide oval table. On his side was Prime Minister Bailey Jingwei, followed by the 9 sword kings. Only the farthest seat was empty. All eyes were on it, impatient. Shangguan Feiyun was the first to complain. Does he still think of himself as heir? What never? Thump tilde. Faint footsteps echoed, followed by a familiar figure. Clap tilde. Lone Arm Sword King, you finally grace us with your presence. We could never start without you, ha ha ha. Shangguan Feiyun ridiculed. The other sword kings held smiles of disdain. Only Bailey Jingsha sighed. The man sat in the empty spot. Bailey Jingtian had now lost his crown prince title, becoming the 10th sword king. The official title was Sword King Jingtian, while among the other sword kings he got dubbed Lone Arm Sword King, all because he lost the other at Zhuo Fan's fire. Bailey Jingtian looked with sadness at the empty sleeve. The crown prince was meant to inherit the throne, but there was no way a gimp would take that power with little choice. He was reduced to a prince. Bailey Jingsha was bleeding while Bailey Jingwei shook his head. What a waste of a good seed. With Sword King Jingtian present, let the 10 Sword King gathering commence. Bailey Yulei cleared his voice and began, holding no ridicule for the late comer, even using his official title, Prime Minister Bailey. What is the purpose of this meeting? Bailey Jingwei looked at them and spoke, Your Majesty, Sword Kings, due to my gross negligence, I have let evil run amok in our nation for 100 years. But in these many years, our nation is once again restored to its glory. The army filled its ranks, the people are wealthy, but the greatest disaster is now upon us. One that may very well be the end of our great nation. The men waited nervously for him to finish. Do you all remember the rise of that one great talent from the World War? He made me taste defeat for the first time and sullying the name of Bailey. Zhuo Fan. Bailey Jingtian spat through gnashed teeth. The rest were looking complicated, unsettled as well at the mere mention of the name. Bailey Jingwei nodded. It's this genius versed in politics and war that sent our magnificent nation on the brink of collapse 100 years ago, foiling the land unification plan. He has my complete respect, to be honest, as the only man I could never read. Fortune was with us that day, swallowed whole by the sea demon. I may regret losing such a rival, but I rejoice at world free of such a dreadful man. He got nods from everyone. However, while the devil has been purged, his poison remained, spreading into our nation. Bailey Jingwei's eyes shone, shouting, Do you all remember where he came from? Devil Mountain. Bailey Yuyun spoke up. Bailey Jingwei nodded. We heard of this mystery sect from his own mouth, unable still to confirm or deny it. Its influence, however, is unquestionable. In the past century, there has been many forces using similar names, Devil Sect, Devil Island, Devil Group, Devil City, and so on. They all wanted to use a dead man's name to garner power. We have crushed every last one of them, proving that those carrying the devil's name are nothing but liars. Unacceptable. What's more concerning is the small faction, under 100 member, having begun using this name, Devil Gang, Devil Stronghold, and even Devil Village. This poor imitations are preposterous. Of course, we cull them swiftly, but the momentum is to be feared. All want to make use of this terrifying legend and gather power to restore it. This affected our nation, worsening the century-long unrest far greater than I anticipated. There's no shortage of people believing we lost to Devil Mountain's disciple and thus took its name. It has stained the illustrious reputation of our empire. So, How much noise can a bunch of weaklings make? They'll get wiped out with a snap of our fingers. Shangguan Feiyun disdained. At worst, they'll only make us work harder. No bug could change the way the world works. The other Sword Kings agreed. They're not genuine, only using the name. What's there to be scared of when the real Devil Mountain is not involved? Bailey Jingwei was, however, very serious when it came to these pests. I wouldn't have called all Sword Kings here if it were about some rabble. The crucial fact is that one of them gained incredible power. It has tight ranks and spread out, a force that the Five Lands have never seen. People, have any of you heard of Devil Palace? All froze, turning grave. Shangguan Feiyun even frowned. Devil Palace? A secret force growing since 100 years ago that has only just began to be noticed by the main factions of the lands. It's terrifying how secretive it is. Bailey Jingwei had never been more serious in his life. Chapter 1124, Threat. Chapter 1124, Threat. Proofreader, Papatonks. Some were doubtful, others looked grave or hesitant, but they all were thoughtful. Bailey Jingwei could easily guess their surface thoughts. Sword Kings, it would seem that you all have fought this mystery power inside your area but are unclear what it is. Allow me to explain to you all. Devil Palace first appeared in the lands at the beginning of the war 5 years ago, in a most befuddling fashion. Bailey Jingwei continued, do you recall the uprising in our nation? I've conducted investigations, sent spies, and finally confirmed that the very first to rise against us was the Devil Palace. Following it, fires broke out everywhere as other minor groups rose up as well, leading to a century of turmoil. Just as we began culling these dangerous elements, Devil Palace vanished into thin air before we could understand them or cause any real damage to them. However, they did not stop. While we were busy with other minorities going against us, they went after the rabbles to recruit them and gain power. So while the Sword Kings have been hard at work destroying these traitors, they were far from removed, turning into morsels for this one large faction, growing so much it can threaten our very nation. Bam! Shangguan Feiyun slammed the table. Curses, have we done nothing but do the work for them this past century? Just when we thought we removed the pockets of resistance, they just went over to the enemy's side. Yes, by using our unrest, they only have to gain from it. Devil Palace is in a whole other league than those erratic rabbles. Zither Sword King squinted and rapped the table. He had one peculiar smile though the others nodded, wary. Bailey Jingwei sighed. Devil Palace is exercising extreme caution, yet it used the Five Lands War in its favor as well. It then chose to bide its time over the coming century as it grew and grew. A radical idea came to me while thinking of it. The Devil Palace might be a real branch of Devil Mountain, having the same twisted mind as the dead Shuafan. Everyone flinched, looking shocked to the core. You're saying Devil Palace is something he built, that is still alive? No, he should be dead, ending up swallowed by the sea demon, but the beginning of these factions bears his signature. Bailey Yuyun cried in disbelief, with Bailey Yuyun shooting her down. This isn't happening only in the central area, but in every other land as well. All know perfectly well who directed the Five Lands War. Having lost this mastermind, how could the Devil Palace infiltrate the lands so quickly amidst the war? Now it grew into the largest dark faction throughout the lands, hiding in shadows. I refuse to believe anyone that claims he didn't have a hand in this. The others felt their hearts sink. Shangguan Feiyun clenched his fists. The devil spread his poison, giving us such grief even from beyond the grave. God damn him. Not damn him, but fear him. At least with him dead there won't be some ingenious master plan with so many pawns at his disposal. It would have been disastrous. Bailey Jingwei felt a shiver down his spine and sighed. The defeat was a century ago, yet time did not help in easing the dread he felt at the mere mention of Shuafan's name. Regardless, the mastermind may be gone, but Devil Palace is becoming a serious thorn in our side. I believe this goes the same for the other 4 lands. No one would ever tolerate anyone encroaching into their domain, especially one so dangerous. Bailey Jingwei's hand held a map, revealing it to everyone, with all kinds of lines. This is the map of the 5 lands. And these lines represent the paths Devil Palace's people had taken over the last years. I just can't get a grasp of their intentions. They may be seen in one spot for a while, only to never come there again. Maybe they finished their job. Shangguan Feiyun asked. Bailey Jingwei nodded, turning dead serious. Yes, I thought so as well, but this only makes it worse. The typical dark faction would spread its influence while hiding its base. They're doing so, but to what end? Being in the dark about the other is the most terrible thing. The others were in full agreement also. Bailey Jingwei took another paper, with an image that showed clear connections. This is something I deduced from a few confessions from the Devil Palace disciples we captured. According to them, Devil Palace has clear ranks, with the superiors and lower ranks in direct contact. The only unknown in this is the head, with none ever seeing him. Only hearing of his title. Devil Palace Lord is a mystery person known only as the Dark Demon Lord. There's no witnesses, only rumors about his strength being beyond anything. He has beast, sparrow, power, fire and ice as his Dharma kings, and they are at the level of our 9 sword kings, if not stronger. Under them are the sun, moon and star devil emissaries, in control of the scattered disciples' tasks. Next are the small leaders, vile and vicious men with some repute in every land. They may be trouble for others, but not for sword kings, mere fodder. They all looked on with worry and shock. Devil Palace has grown so big. That means no land can stand up to them but us. Bailey Yulei slapped the table. Prime Minister, is that map reliable? We all know those lands' leaders. How could they let so many savages run amok? It has to be an overblown rumor to drive fear into those idiots and attract more people. With the 5 Dharma kings as strong as us, what will that make of the Palace Lord, on equal ground with Patriarch? There's no way. There might be though. Shangguan Feiyun looked on with a piercing gaze. A month ago I found a sneaky bunch in my area. I was about to get rid of them when this young man met me blow for 300 rounds. I overheard the others calling him Beast King. SSS tilde. Everyone gasped and stared at him in disbelief, hoping to be some poor joke. Anything was better than the truth. A pity there was not a sign of humor on his feature. Those Dharma kings are as strong as us? Shangguan Feiyun shook his head. I didn't know then where he came from, but now I am certain he's from Devil Palace. Moreover, Bailey Jingwei continued, there's a rhyme going around the lands. In radiant splendor, stars do gleam, their light bathes all in a cosmic beam. But as darkness descends, consuming all sight, the stars' brilliance wanes, fading from height. Yet fear not, for the dawn draws near, a quiet arrival, bringing hope clear. The men's faces twitched. The implication obvious. You're saying the Dark Demon Lord will crush the Empire's unification plan? The dark consumes the plight, bringing great change to the land. Bailey Jingwei was a mask of rage. The rhyme is most definitely fake, coming from Devil Palace to worm into the populace's hearts. Swordstar Empire is not about to fall so easily. But rumors are scary and people hear what they wish. We need to squash Devil Palace before the rhyme spreads further and becomes reality. The situation is dire, everyone. Bailey Jingwei was dead serious as he finished. The others nodded, aware now of the crisis. The might of their nation was unquestioned, all due to the 9 sword kings, but with the rise of the Dark Demon Lord, they felt the threat. Shangguan Feiyun said, Prime Minister, there's been something that's been bothering me for many years that I would like your input on. The invincible sword hasn't been seen for 100 years. What happened? The matter with Devil Palace is grave, yes, but once the invincible sword shows himself, none can stop him, right? The other 9 turned to him, curious. Bailey Jingwei shook and winced. Patriarch has been in seclusion for the past century to break through to a new stage that no human has achieved before. When Patriarch comes out, I believe you will see the birth of true unstoppable might. Chapter 1125, Ancient Promise. Chapter 1125, Ancient Promise. Proofreader, Papatonks. Then we'll be waiting for the good news. Bailey Jingwei was tight-lipped about it, and the kings didn't ask either. Left with their own suspicions, Bailey Jingwei looked drained, forcing a smile as he put away the paper. Everyone, that's the situation. I hope Sword Kings shall return to your designated area and fight back Devil Palace before they grow any stronger. I shall be drafting a plan in the meantime, to remove this danger for good. I will notify you in time. Farewell, Prime Minister, Your Majesty. Shangguan Feiyun stood and cupped his head before leaving. The others did the same. The Emperor couldn't help it and said, Jingwei, it's been 100 years already. We can't hide it anymore. They're suspicious and the cat'll be out of the bag. The bag must stay shut. Bailey Jingwei's brow shook, his eyes shining. Your Majesty, it'll be fine. I vow to have the Empire to enjoy peace and stability for ages. The 10 Sword Kings left in groups, with Bailey Jingtian being the only one alone. Shangguan Feiyun took joy in scorning him for his lost arm, the one who used to be the heir, incredible talent, and a second invincible sword, turned out a mere prince. He sure has taken a huge fall this century, hey. Fate reaped the souls of 9 princes and left one with a handicap. They shouldn't have gone to the northern lands. Dan Qingshan sighed. They were all amazingly talented and would have grown into an emperor and many sword kings to help us in these trying times. Brother Dan, are you a fool? The more sword kings the Bailey have, the greater the danger we'll be in. We are now 4 and 6, and still hold some sway, thankfully. Hee. I'd wished to see them grow to their full potential. They couldn't stop me from going home anyway. Shangguan Feiyun snickered at the huge loss while Dan Qingshan just shook his head. The Sword King came over, smiling. Brother Dan, while I don't like Brother Feiyun's character, I still stand by him on this. Do you honestly believe with the rise of Bailey's younger generation that they'd let you go home? When we become obsolete, there'll be no stopping our execution. This is much better. The great clan now finds itself without posterity, all due to that war. The dead Shui Fan had to be Bailey's bane. We should thank him for that. The other 2 smiled. Brothers, we were right all along. The invincible sword is dying. A man rushed to their side, his voice low and hoarse. Did you see Bailey Jingwei's face? He lost his backing and confidence. Zither Sword King gestured to him for silence immediately, his eyes darting around. Wine Sword Immortal, don't just say what's on your mind. Before we ascertain the invincible sword status, you should keep it down lest you want to lose your head. What's the point of confirming it? The old coot's been gone for a century. Isn't that the biggest proof? The Wine Sword Immortal was utterly confident. You know fully well the old guy is grooming the juniors, always looking the best to train himself or let them understand the Sundering Sword. Have you seen any of that happen the last century, especially with the clan's future wrecked? It's obvious he dropped dead. Bailey Jingwei is just too cunning and kept it hidden to lord over us. Since he's dead, what are you guys planning? Will you keep staying around this dull place? The Zither Sword King and Dan Qingshan smiled. Stop with the nonsense. What if he's alive? Though he grinned widely, still Shangguan Feiyun was the only one unfazed, his eyes firm. Regardless of the invincible sword's fate or your choice, I will stay in the Swordstar Empire. It's the only one that can help me attack Eastern lands and take everything. You're so obstinate. The 3 sighed. He just didn't understand what being a cultivator meant. It was all about understanding the world's nature, its Tao. Was it worth throwing it all away just so you'd become a tool? An official in a crimson robe approached them and bowed. Greetings, Sword Kings, Deputy Minister of War. Shangguan Feiyun gave the middle-aged man with grizzled sideburns a look, noticing him in the 5th layer of ethereal stage. Isn't the Ministry of War under Prime Minister? Why come to us? Yuan Yong bowed again. Sword King Feiyun, I have a matter that I wish Dragon-Cleaving Sword King would help in. With me? Dan Qingshan shook his head. Ha ha ha, do I know you? Sorry, but you don't look familiar. I'm not inclined to help random strangers either. Dan Qingshan turned away. The man rushed to stop him and revealed a scroll from his ring as he offered it. Sword King, please, do you still recognize this painting? This. Dan Qingshan's brow shook at the familiar paper, taking it and letting a long breath as he unfolded it. The man still bowed. Dragon-Cleaving Sword King, do you remember the promise you made in Western lands? That you will help the bearer of this painting in one matter. I know Sir's word is his bond, and I have traveled far and wide, through countless hardships to return this painting. I only ask whether the promise still stands after all these years. Lads of our nation, I made it in the name of love, and in love I vowed. How could I just break it? Dan Qingshan's eyes stirred, recalling a past long forgotten. He then folded it back and spoke. Talk, what is it you want? The man bowed once more. Sword King, I have nothing but respect to your dedication. I shall be honest. I am Yuan Yong, from Western lands. I was a Tianyu Empire prince once, before a vile bastard took my power and hounded me to. Fine, fine, I don't want to know about your past. Just tell me what you want. Sword King, I wish that sir would give me justice. Wipe out Tianyu and the Luo alliance with it. Yuan Yong spoke with bloodlust and malice. What? Dan Qingshan widened. Eliminate Luo alliance. How did you become the deputy minister of war? How could you ask such a thing? Shangguan Feiyun sneered. I don't know anything about the Tianyu Empire, but I know of the Luo alliance's position in Western lands. It holds no less than half of Western lands' might. Asking Brother Dan to destroy it is like telling him to go against Western lands. Can Brother Dan agree? Dan Qingshan nodded. Yes, Sword King Feiyun is right. My words are limited by my capability. I am not strong enough to fight a land by myself. Sorry, but choose another. Dragon-cleaving Sword King, all I ever wanted in life is revenge. The Luo clan stole my country, putting a puppet on the throne while hunting me down every step of the way. I can never let go of such hatred. For this reason I have come to Sword King for help. Originally, a lofty man like a Sword King was beyond the reach of a nobody like me. I was fortunate enough that when the Five Lands War broke out, I joined the Central Area Army and rose through the ranks thanks to my service. It took me 100 years to walk into this palace and be fortunate enough to meet a Sword King today. Damn, such dedication, persevering for 100 years just to reach the status to see you. It's true what they say, the obsession for revenge can take you anywhere. Shangguan Feiyun chuckled. Times change, however. The Luo alliance was nothing a century ago. Brother Dan could have snuffed them out with a snap of his fingers. Now it's grown too large in the Western lands. You're asking Brother Dan to go on a suicide mission. Better wait for another war, then you could make use of your position to settle the score and get your revenge. Sword King Feiyun is right, but we all know the state of the empire. It's still restless and far from battle-ready. It may take another century, if not more, before it can wage war. I can't wait that long. Yuan Yong was impatient. Sword King, then the next best thing would be to take the head of the Luo alliance, Luo Yunhai. Without a leader, they're sure to crumble. At least this will give me some peace. What do you say? Well, it is doable. Dan Qingshan mulled it over. Killing one man then coming right back isn't an issue. Sure, I agree. Yuan Yong bowed once more, filled with joy, his eyes showing obvious scorn. An hour later, Bailey Jingwei stood in a dark room. Yuan Yong bowed next to him. Prime Minister, everything's set. Dan Qingshan is going. Good, I didn't hide your matter for a century for nothing. Don't worry, I'll let you take revenge yourself. Also, make sure to notify all the lands about Dan Qingshan's actions. Yes, and thank you, Prime Minister. Bailey Jingwei nodded, a grin forming on his face. Rest assured, Patriarch, I'll make sure to remove every danger to the Empire's safety. Soon, the Sword Star Empire will shine like the sun, ha ha ha. The mad laughter bounced off the dark wall of the hall. Chapter 1126, You're looking for me? Chapter 1126, You're looking for me? Proofreader, Papatonks. Are you certain that the Devil Palace Lord is in there? 3 months flew by. The Zither Sword King was in a lavish hall, framed by a soothing light, and in elegant clothes a man kneeled before him. Old and bald Sword King, I've been scouting the Devil Palace for decades, while the Palace Lord's whereabouts are always unknown. But thanks to my broad experience these many years, I drew some conclusions at long last based on his known locations. I went there to try my luck and actually came to find one of the 5 Dharma Kings, Sparrow King. She and Beast King are the most common of the 5 that go with the Palace Lord. Her presence is solid proof that the Palace Lord is there, in Swordfall. The Zither Sword King nodded and waved him off. Bald Demon bowed and took his leave. Well, I didn't know that the Zither Sword King wanted to see me so much, ha ha ha. A laughter sounded around. Then you ought to have a rough idea what my palace is about. Why go through all this trouble tracking me down for decades? The Zither Sword King and Bald Demon flinched, their hearts jumping in their chest. They whipped their head about and finally noticed the extra youth with covered eyes sitting in his Sword King throne, a playful yet insidious smile on his face. He had a girl and a youth on either side, staring them down like hawks. The tokens on their waist glittered in the light in a dazzling fashion. Bald Demon's eyes went wide, almost soiling himself as he stammered, Bee-Beast King and Sparrow King. Why you re the Palace Lord? The Dark Demon Lord of the Devil Palace? Zither Sword King's brow quivered, caught by surprise at the sudden appearance. Then he turned grave. Zhuofan nodded. It would be a darned shame for all that effort tracking me down all those decades not to show up, don't you think? So I figured why not come to you and put you at ease, ha ha ha. Gulp. Bald Demon's knees were jelly, sweat pouring down like rain. He turned a pleading look to the Zither Sword King, waiting on his decision. Boss, you put me up to this. This is your turf, you gotta help me. The Zither Sword King had no time to mind his existential crisis, staring hard at Zhuofan before taking out a Millennium Zither. He flicked his hands and a soothing melody sounded, releasing 7 sword energies straight at Zhuofan. They say the Dark Demon Lord is beyond strong, at the peak of the world's strength. I would like to test my meager skill against your lordships, if sire deems me worthy. 7 notes. Obscure sword? Bald Demon lit up. How dare you? Qiao raged, but Zhuofan waved her back. Tilda. Zhuofan snickered from the grand throne. He didn't need to even move as a shield formed around him. The 7 strikes backed by the power of a Sword King fizzled out on contact. They couldn't even get the shield to shake. Even a 3-year-old was stronger. Zither Sword King's eyes shook from shock, his spine taken with a chill. The Dark Demon Lord is beyond monstrous. My 7 notes. Obscure sword couldn't so much as touch him, cancelled out like nothing. This can't be happening. Bald Demon was gaping wide, his eyes bugging out. His innards, however, writhed in regret for going after such a ludicrous expert like the Palace Lord. Not even a Sword King's attack could make him flinch, since it was out that he was the Zither Sword King's spy. Then his life was forfeit, especially since his boss couldn't save him. He felt like crying then and there. The thrill of doing all he wanted in the lands for being under the Zither Sword King got to his head. He thus disregarded the Devil Palace Lord and his kings, taking them for overinflated rumors compared with the might of a true Sword King from the central area. Why else would they stick to the shadows and be so sneaky about it? Reality though proved otherwise. Shit. They're insanely strong. You call yourself a Sword King when you can't even get him to twitch a finger? Bald Demon bowed at once to Zhuofan. Spare me, Palace Lord, I had no choice. The Zither Sword King made me. Please. Sword King, did that suffice your curiosity? I now have a little curiosity of my own and was wondering if you could tell me why would you insist on going through such lengths to find me out? Of the 10 Sword Kings, the Zither Sword King is the most casual and relaxed of them, not going out of your way. My people had an easy time working in your area as well, making me not even see the Zither Sword King as an enemy. Ignoring the background noise, Liu Mubai had Zhuofan's full attention and smile. The Zither Sword King chuckled with joy, before all mirth vanished like it never existed. I am grateful for the Palace Lord's indulgence, but before I answer, would it be presumptuous of me to ask the Palace Lord something? With the Devil Palace spread throughout the 5 lands, do you have any intentions to take down the Swordstar Empire? Yes. Zhuofan was quick to reply. Why? It's in my way and has to be removed. Zhuofan was as earnest as he was serious. Zhuofan needed to set up the recoil array that ran through all the lands. Swordstar Empire held power in the central area and was sure to interfere with his project if left be. It's not like I can waltz in saying, hey, let me set this up real quick and I'll be on my way. Why? Be it territory or assets, all were based on power. Why would anyone talk with you when you had nothing to your name? And in the case you had the power, why waste time with empty chatter when taking was so much easier? For himself and his goal, Zhuofan had to take the empire down. All that was left was for the right moment to avail itself. Zither Sword King stared hard at him and noticed the truth. He smirked, his eyes shining with hope. Then I can be frank with the Palace Lord as well. Let's work together. Qiao and young Sanzi shared a curious look, while the bawling Bald Demon choked on his tears and snot as he shot a wide look at him. Boss, are you high? You didn't send me after him to take him out but to cooperate. What the hell? Why? Zhuofan saw it coming, judging by the flat look. Give me one good reason why I should trust you. We have the same goal, you and I, the demise of the Swordstar Empire. The Zither Sword King side. Before the Swordstar Empire came to rule the central area, It was the Liu clan that wielded Sundering Sword, my clan. The invincible sword challenged everyone left and right, rising above us all. He is indeed a genius, becoming unstoppable even before he got to understand Sundering Sword's art, able to take it by force from my clan. Then the Sword Star Empire grew and swallowed all of the central area. Any dissidents were culled and my clan was left to decay, but the hope that one day we might recover the Sundering Sword and destroy the empire was passed down through generations, all the way to me. My little insight into the Sundering Sword art was all thanks to my ancestors, allowing me to rise to the rank of a Sword King and into the heart of power. It may be ancient history, or perhaps the invincible sword had defeated too many experts for him to remember me as well. In any case, he has no suspicion of me. I have stayed all this time as the Central Area's Sword King for the right timing to get back at them. So you came for me? Yes, I noticed the Devil Palace decades ago, quicker than anyone else, and knew therein lay my chance. I just didn't know how far it would go or grow enough to threaten the empire. For this I planted a spy to observe. The Zither Sword King was excited. I'm glad to know the wait was not in vain. The Palace Lord is a heavenly genius. In a century, you set up a faction that can fight with the Empire's 10 Sword Kings. While Lordship, yourself, are even unmatched. I am now certain that with both of us working together, the Empire will fall. Chapter 1127, Aged Birthday. Chapter 1127, Aged Birthday. Proofreader, Papatonks. Chiawa and Jiyu Santong shared a look. Bald Demon was looking stumped as well. Why? So all that spying was so he could join hands with the Palace Lord? But aren't I from the Devil Palace already? What joining? He always felt that he had been a double agent, only to find out he was just a simple one since both sides wanted to work together. What was the point of even doing all that then? So the two could mediate. Zhuo Fan paused for a long time, before shaking his head. I appreciate the Zither Sword King's thoughts, but the time isn't ripe. Seeing Sir so anxious, it will make our cooperation stifled. Fighting alone would be preferred. Why the hesitation, Palace Lord? Many reasons, starting with the Empire still holding strong and would only prolong a war. Or in the case of a win, my palace will come into the light and draw the eyes of the other lands, putting us in danger. As for the most crucial reason, the odds are slim at best. Why do you say that? Zither Sword King Shuk Shua Fan said, the invincible sword. Him? Zither Sword King scoffed, Palace Lord, the old guy hasn't been around for a century. If not dead, then on his deathbed, frail and weak. Have you seen him? Zither Sword King paused at the question, hesitating. Bailey Jingwei and the Emperor are the only ones who know his condition. The Zither Sword King nodded. True, he's not about to let it spread, especially when there's so much danger lurking about. Zither Sword King, they say you're quite casual, but now you're acting against this info. Is it on purpose or made so? Filled with nothing but hatred, you'll be prone to anxiety and rash decisions. We shall not be cooperating. Goodbye. Zhuo Fan stood and walked out with Chiawa and Jiyu Santong at his sides. The Zither Sword King rushed. Hold on, Palace Lord. That's not an issue. I've waited for so long and can still wait for a few more years. Sword King, you might say that, but that is your nature. To be frank, I don't want dead weights. A man that has no control over himself and only seeks revenge can never achieve anything. Then how can we cooperate? Zither Sword King's eyes shook. Shua Fan paused. Sword King, you're a smart man and should know that cooperation isn't limited to joining hands. Being on the same page will suffice. While our aims differ, our target is the same. Knowing this, you can tell how we can work together, ha ha ha. Zither Sword King was silent about that rhyme of yours. Make another when you have the time. Zhuo Fan waved and left with his children. Zither Sword King winced and sighed. Dark Demon Lord is so peculiar. Bailey Jingwei has met his match again. Sword King, so you. Bald Demon stuck to his side. But then his body turned into a bloody mist, drifting away. The Zither Sword King relaxed his hand. No shift in features at all. You know too much. Father, how should we deal with that traitor, Bald Demon? The trio walked among a busy street, with Jiyu Santong feeling annoyed as he looked back. Shua Fan dismissed his worry. That's no traitor, but a spy. one that hid for decades in my palace. Liu Mubai owns him and he isn't about to worsen our relationship over one small trifle. Liu Mubai is bound to clean up. Let others take care of their dogs and not undermine their authority. What? He knows too much. Would you have left him around to leak the private meeting with the Devil Palace Lord if you were in his shoes? Ha ha ha, Liu Mubai planned on removing him the minute he was open about his intentions. Zhuo Fan grinned. Young Sanzi nodded. Qiao asked, Father, were you just talking about the rime that spread across the lands? It sounds like we're trying to ruin the empire. Did Liu Mubai spread it? Should be. Zhuo Fan nodded. I picked up from his speech that he is fixated on seeing the Swordstar Empire burn, and the rhyme came to me as a borrowed knife tactic. He knows we have the strength to oppose it, so he let the rhyme spread and inflame the hatred on both sides. We could have had no intentions for the empire for all he cared, because now we're enemies for sure. He's only working with us to make sure the Swordstar Empire is done for. Sometimes, rumors are worse, especially one like this that gets on the nerves of a ruler. The two of us are now fire and water, on a collision course. I don't mind him doing this, but I hate being used. That's why I mentioned the rhyme at the end to gauge his reaction, whether he was behind it or not. But also to warn him that I know and not to get smart with me. I have the final say and I'm not about to play his game. Young Sanzi and Qiao nodded. Hey, did you hear? Dragon Cleaving Sword King is going after the Luo Alliance leader in Western lands. Do you think he has any chance? A Sword King targeting the Luo Alliance leader? Isn't that so low of him? He has his status to think about. How is that low? They say the Dragon Cleaving Sword King's decision has nothing to do with the two lands. It's to fulfill a 1,000-year-old promise. Someone brought him the lost painting and asked for revenge for the imperial family a century ago. This is their world. The four lands could know about it as well, but I don't think they'll intervene since it's not about the two lands. But he's the pillar of Western lands. With him gone. And he's part of their world too, and no one can run from resentments. With the Sword King stepping in, even with millions of soldiers, the Luo Alliance leader will die. It'll be child's play for a Sword King to get their head, go for him and not waste time on the soldiers. Right. A particular gossip pierced Zhuo Fan's thoughts. Zhuo Fan shuddered and his brow tense. Dan Qingshan is going after Yunhai? Father, should I go stop him? Young Sanzi offered. Zhuo Fan raised his hand. Something's not right. Why does the whole world know of Dan Qingshan's plan to kill him? Father, what do you mean? Suspicion comes from trickery. Dan Qingshan has always been quiet, while the one asking the favor wouldn't have let it leak to warn them. Celebrate after the job is done. Or is he so sure Dan Qingshan can do it? Zhuo Fan mulled it over and then said, Qiao, young Sanzi, find out the Five Lands' reaction to this. I'll stop old Dan myself. I fear this was a trick all along. The two bowed. Yes, father. In Blackwind Mountain, the base of the Luo Alliance, the main hall was decorated for a special occasion, Alliance leader Luo Yunhai's grand birthday. Oblivious to the imminent danger, experts and renowned guests came from all over, with every figure in the Western lands present here. Even the 9 sects were here to offer respects. Luo Alliance leader, may you live long and happy. Sect leader Li, come, sit. Luo Alliance leader, you give me much favor welcoming me yourself. Clan head Zhong, it's only proper. Sir, coming to my birthday is the real honor, ha ha ha. Luo Yunhai and Yue were in front of the hall, greeting the many guests with a stiff smile. He sometimes glanced at Yue, giving a bitter smile. Yue, is 150 years old worthy of an grand birthday? I said not to hold it, but you insisted, and now look how much a pain it is. Whose fault is it if not yours? Yue rolled her eyes, giving him a sharp look. You wanted to wrest for power since a century ago. For that purpose, we need to make connections, and a grand birthday is the best occasion. Steward Zhuge said it himself, a small celebration every 5 years with a large one every decade. Making sure to invite all with renown in the Western lands, increasing from one event to another while using the upright conduct of the Luo Alliance to sway the people. Sure, a grand birthday is a hassle, but you can't deny its effects these decades. Not only has the Luo Alliance been growing swiftly, but Deer's voice has gained more and more weight in the Western lands. Better than the double dragon manor who stays closed up for years on end. I believe that the 9 sects trust deer far more than the double dragon manor. Steward Zhuge's plan worked like a charm. Luo Yunhai's smile fell and nodded. Yeah, their work has excellent results. Luo Alliance has gained more and more friends. I'm just sad that you have to go through the toil with me. Dear, it's my job. Yua blushed with a sweet smile. Luo Yunhai looked around oddly. Now where did that girl run off to now? Chapter 1128, Malcontent. Chapter 1128, Malcontent. Proofreader, Papatonks. Yua looked around curiously. Yeah, where is she? I don't see her gophers either. Who are you calling a gopher, Yua? A tall middle-aged man walked over with a smile. Ha ha ha, that brat has been taken by your charming daughter for years now, always after her like a lost puppy. You just can't drive him off either, just like a shadow. Why not just seal the deal already? Yua's face twitched and huffed. You wish. How's your son fit for my daughter? Luo Yunhai laughed. Brother Xingyun, Siphon, and Zhenshan are still young. Let's give them a couple more years. How are they young? Long Xingyun chuckled, looking hopeful. Brother Yunhai, our friendship began since Tianyu. We built the Luo Alliance together. The two grew up together, childhood sweethearts that only have eyes for each other. Why not make it official? Ha ha ha. What eyeing each other? My daughter barely even looks at him. Yua gave him a dark look while Luo Yunhai chuckled. Long Xingyun, after all this time, I see you're as rotten as ever. The whole alliance knows of your son's incompetence. How can he be a match for the Luo clan's pride and joy? Someone shouted in the distance. Who said that? Who insulted my son? Long Xingyun snapped back, only to snort at the speaker. Well, what's it to you? You're not part of the Luo alliance anyway, so don't butt in. Thump tilde. A cold-faced middle-aged man stepped closer, with a split mustache and flickering eyes. His stare pierced hearts. He was the head venerable of Sword God Sect, one of the 7 founding elders of Luo Alliance, Xie Xiaofeng's eldest son. Xie Tianshang. He began with a gesture of respect to Luo Yunhai, offered his gifts, then turned to Long Xingyun. I may not be, but my dad is. My son grew up in the alliance as well. You can say anything else, but when it comes to the junior's marriage, I have to speak my mind. What the hell does that have to do with you? Everything. My son thinks the world of the Luo clan's daughter. Xie Tianshang cupped his hands again. Brother Yunhai, I've always been fascinated by swords and failed to guide him. Thank you for always looking after him. Now that he's all grown up, I wish to fulfill my duty as a father. Seeing his honest intentions for your daughter, I would like to make the humble request for her hand. Luo Yunhai and Yua lowered their heads in awkward silence, and another showed up for marriage. Then I won't impose and make it hard on the Luo alliance leader. Long Xingyun sneered, saluting Luo Yunhai again. Brother Yunhai, that settles it then. Let's discuss the details later. Curses, how is that settled? Get lost. Xie Tianshang shoved Long Xingyun aside and took his place to offer his sincerity to the two. Long Xingyun replied with a kick. You left Tianyu, yet you meddle into Tianyu's matters still? The two old friends started bickering like biddies. Though never resorting to violence, the scene they made wasn't any smaller. Luo Yunhai shook his head. Helpless Sword God sect leader has arrived. The herald shouted, and Wen Dao smiled as he saluted, taken back at the display. Venerable Xie, why? Senior brother. Xie Tianshang's face twitched, stopping the quarrel. Wen Dao looked at the two and cracked up. Ha ha ha, how lively. Venerable Xie, you're so relaxed now that you're home, unlike your stern attitude in the sect. Xie Tianshang rolled his eyes, yet he had a smile on his face. Sect leader Wen, it's been ages. Luo Yunhai cupped his hands when Dao waved off the excessive courtesy. Please, we're all brothers here. There's no need for that. I remember like yesterday how the Luo clan kept me safe on the front lines of the Five Lands War. It's only natural. The Luo clan has joined the 9 sects before all due to sect leader Wen's support. We had all done it for Brother Zhue, while you saved my life. They can't compare. Anyway, we became family from that moment on. Brother Luo, congratulations. Wen Dao cupped his hands again. Luo Yunhai returned the gesture with the same joy and sincerity. Hellion Flame Sect Leader Yang Mo and Ultimate Clarity Sect Leader Wu Qingqiu have arrived. The two stepped lightly to the bustle, with Wu Qingqiu laughing. Brothers, you're all here. I see that we're late. I'll drink to make up for it. Yunhai, congratulations. I would have held my own grand birthday, but we're all sects leaders, and no longer part of the secular world. At the very least, I get to meet with my sworn brothers, ha ha ha. Yang Mo smiled and nodded, offering his respects alongside Wu Qingqiu sect leader Wu. Don't joke. How can the mundane world's customs be of notice to the secluded sects? Luo Yunhai joked when Dao asked, what of Yi Lin? You still haven't found him after all these years. With Zhuo Fan gone, he's at the top of Western lands. When Dao gave a thumbs up, don't remind me. Ever since the war, little junior brother vanished mere days after returning and I haven't heard from him since. When Dao sighed, many seniors have been missing since the war as well. It's as if they all went into seclusion after, no longer concerning themselves with fame and riches. The men shared a look and sank into silence. The four lands had lost most of their forces and only grew further apart from the central area's level. Please, sit. As it's my grand birthday, let's not talk about sad matters. Why not join me in drinking our fill? Knowing their worries, Luo Yunhai smiled and proposed to pull them out of their sorrow. The men laughed. The guests kept pouring in well into dusk. Zhuge Changfeng and Leng Wuchang looked over the gift list and shared a frown. Stewards, what's wrong? The two bowed. Young miss. Luo Yunchang took the list and smiled. 9th grade pills, 10th grade spiritual weapons, 11th grade ingredients. The gifts have only been increasing over the decades. Yunhai is starting to get their attention. Ha ha ha. Yes, but it's too soon to tell if it's for good or worse. Zhuge Changfeng sighed. Luo Yunchang was puzzled. Zhuge Changfeng bowed. Young miss, we've anticipated this outcome ever since clan head decided on moving up the ladder at all costs. What outcome? Double Dragon Manor is malcontent by the year. Zhuge Changfeng sighed. The Luo alliance has enjoyed a swift growth over the century, winning many hearts. With the Western lands having a bleak future, Double Dragon Manor couldn't be happy. The first half of the century, clan heads' birthday parties all had an envoy from the Double Dragon Manor, offering encouraging gifts. Later on, as our alliance gained clout and the Western lands followed us more and more, Double Dragon Manor gave us the cold shoulder over the next 2 decades and lessened their gifts. The last 30 years there hasn't been any, the period marking the peak of our influence. It came so that when discussions of defenses were held, the Double Dragon Manor was bypassed and the 9 sects discussed it only with us. It is no different from going over an emperor's authority in his court and getting killed in the process. Luo Yunchang's brow shook. You mean Double Dragon Manor wants Yunhai? No, it has yet to come to that. Zhuge Changfeng refuted. The Luo alliance is vital to Western lands. Be it from reasons, or excuses, Double Dragon Manor would never move against us, unless they want to lose their status in Western lands. The world of practitioners has its own rules. Without a good reason for war, they would earn everyone's disgust and hatred. Double Dragon Manor wants to rule Western lands and won't violate this. Alas. They have their eyes on us to find our weakness. The minute we do anything out of line, they'll capitalize on it. So the fiercer things get, the more collected we must be and avoid any trouble. Luo Yunchang nodded and sighed. This is Yunhai's choice and has to bear its burden along with its dangers. Zhuo Fan had told him so before he left and must be ready for it. Clan head is indeed ready to reach the top. It's very similar to Steward Zhuo. True, his guide has been Zhuo Fan all along. Luo Yunchang looked at the sky with a radiant smile. Chapter 1129, Party Crashing. Chapter 1129, Party Crashing. Proofreader, Papatonks. In the bustling hall, with everyone taking seats, Luo Yunhai arrived at his seat with his lady. He saluted everyone with a smile. Sect leaders, venerables, clan heads, elders, it is an honor to have all of you at my humble birthday. The Luo Alliance thanks you, as does everyone here. The two bowed. Luo Alliance leader, you're too kind, ha ha ha. The festivities began with the guests returning the gesture. Luo Yunhai said, As only a few days ago the 9 sect leaders and I have discussed the border defense, the celebration has been rushed. I only hope that you may overlook any slightness. The two bowed again. Please, Luo Alliance leader, it's no trouble. Everyone was modest. Luo Yunhai was very nice, but all the veteran cultivators picked up on his meaning. His talks with the 9 sect leaders for the border defense showed the Luo clan's status, that of the marshal over all of Western lands, while calling the 9 sects fellow brothers, showing their close ties. The position was special and also firm, making so any that was discontent would be shooting himself in the foot, and his future in Western lands. Such forceful declaration coming from Luo Yunhai was seen more as courtesy and benevolent. We're strong but not oppressive, respectful and thoughtful of all opinions. Or the 2 bows to every guest would not have happened. It made everyone want to be friendly and to respect the Luo clan. By exercising their power, it would only shun the guests away. Luo Alliance leader showed that while strong, he was mild and put their minds at ease. Luo Yunhai watched the prevalent smiles in every direction with a pleased look. Luo Alliance has gained even more friends. An obnoxious laughter then broke the jovial mood. Ha ha ha, it's Luo Alliance leader's big birthday, but I wasn't invited. Sir, you can't go in. Sir. Beat it. A 3-meter-tall elder with white hair strutted into the hall following the clamor outside. Next to him were 5 youths, fierce and, judging by the unrestrained aura, in the Genesis stage the guards tried stopping them but were just shoved aside. Some guests were startled and whispered, Qin Society head, Qin Hao? What's he doing here? Isn't he on bad terms with the Luo Alliance? He must have come to ruin the party. This is going to be good. The guests went silent and resumed observing the 2 alliance leader. They insisted even as we tried to stop them. It's fine, you may go. The guard rushed to report, but Luo Yunhai dismissed him. He then turned to the old man with cupped hands, Society head Qin. To what do I owe this most unexpected visit? Yeah, we didn't invite you, sir. So what warranted this forced arrival? Luo Yunchang stood up with cold eyes. Qin Hao chuckled in derision. Young miss, I know of your willful nature, but to think you'd not even show respect on your brother's birthday. In any case, our clans, we are the largest 2 groups in the Western lands. Shouldn't the Luo Alliance leader have invited me as well for his birthday? I was doubtful if maybe brother had misplaced the invitation since you have been so busy with the border and neglected many things. No matter, for here I am, to wish you a long life, ha ha ha. Humph, we don't need copycats like you around. Luo Yunchang mocked. It seems Society head Qin expected the feeling to be mutual. Sorry to disappoint. Many of the guests weren't so discreet in hiding their laughter. Qin Hao's face fell. All of Western lands knew that the Luo clan was the first to start a clan alliance, having built it to be the strongest. All the others that came later were imitations, shaky and hardly effective. Except for Qin Society, trying its damnness to stick close to Luo Alliance's model in the eyes of all. However, the first was a hero, while the second a ne'er-do-well. With the Luo Alliance around, the Qin Society was overshadowed, doomed to be second for all eternity. The only reason it lasted for so long was because Double Dragon Manor had its back. Luo Yunchang's copycat remark struck him to the quick and hard. His face darkened by the second alliance leader. Luo, so you really had no intention of inviting me. But since I'm here now, you wouldn't throw a poor old man out, would you? It'll go against all your alliance stands for. Take a seat, Society head Qin. Bringing another plate is of no import. Luo Yunhai chuckled and gestured. Qin Hao gave a look of scorn, not following along. It's not that I don't appreciate it, but seeing how alliance leader Luo does not wish to see me, I shall leave. But having seen alliance leader Luo after a long time and on your birthday no less, I couldn't leave without giving a gift. Men, present the gift. Yes. A rugged man bowed and offered a 3-meter-long redwood box. After taking it out of his ring, Luo Yunhai looked hard at him, trying to find his angle. Qin Hao's eyes held a savage glint, waving and opening the box to let a flood of scarlet blind the audience. After adjusting to the gaudy show, the people gasped. A top 12th grade spiritual sword? This is my gift to alliance leader Luo, a treasure fit for a hero. Please accept it, alliance leader. Qin Hao sneered, giving a mock bow and challenging him with his eyes. The hall exploded in whispers. A 12th grade spiritual weapon is a rarity. Where did he get his hands on such a treasure? Such a high-quality spiritual weapon is a marvel for every land. Even Double Dragon Manor might not have them. I bet even the central area can't have more than a couple. As for the other lands, it's hard to say if they even have one, let alone a top one. All guests turned their eyes to the dazzling scarlet light show in awe. Luo Yunhai was also taken aback. Clan head, Qin Hao has come to crash the party, that is certain. Double Dragon Manor must have put him up to this, to curb our growth. It's clan head's birthday, and if you can't take the limelight, the Qin society will only grow more outrageous as more social climbers would suck up to him. Lung Wuchang whispered in Luo Yunhai's ear. Luo Yunhai nodded and took in the awe on the guests' faces. He came here to show off so he could poach my allies. I need to stop him or the Luo alliance will lose to him. The 12th grade spiritual weapon, even top quality, isn't the point here, but grasping the hearts of the people. But what could he do to fight him on this? Luo Yunhai turned to Qiu Yanghai, whispering, Elder Qiu, you're the best at refining in the alliance. Do you have any masterpieces? Clan head, I am a refiner, but only in the 10th grade and can make an 11th grade at best. I have nothing that can compete with a top 12th grade spiritual weapon like that. Qiu Yanghai was put in difficulty. Luo Yunhai sighed, glaring at Qin Hao yet having no solution. Wu Qingqiu shook his head, whispering to Wen Dao, I heard Double Dragon Manor isn't as welcoming with the Luo alliance, so they turned to Qin society to keep them in check. The rumors are true, I see. It's the only explanation for the Qin society's recent rise. Even if Double Dragon Manor hadn't given such a treasure to the Qin society, just based on their value, they would never show it, let alone gift it. It's like giving up a part of themselves. People only look at gains and losses. Taking out a 12th grade spiritual weapon to strike at Luo alliance shows that Double Dragon Manor is on the move. Wen Dao sighed, but is Double Dragon Manor what it used to be? TCH, no one was there to threaten Double Dragon Manor. Now that there is, of course it changed. Luo alliance isn't dangerous in its growth, but in its commercial dealings with all the lands, using sacred stones as currency. Luo alliance has outgrown Double Dragon Manor, making the latter pointless. Double Dragon Manor has no choice but to switch tactics to gain western lands under their control. Ha ha ha, I now see why Brother Zhuo warned me to step away from the corruption of the mundane to reach Dao. Wen Dao nodded and sighed, looking disappointed. Chapter 1130, Shock and Awe. Chapter 1130, Shock and Awe. Proofreader, Papatonks. Qin Hao looked at everyone's shocked faces with a vile smirk, cupping his hands to drive in his disdain. Everyone, I've picked out Pyrocloud with nothing but care to give the alliance leader. I couldn't just bring something random, not at such an important event as a grand birthday. Curses, there's hardly any 12th grade spiritual weapons in the world and you say you're careful? Like you own piles of them, damn show off. The people grumbled inside, but the glittering spiritual sword pulled their heartstrings harder. Qin Hao was acting like he just came into new money, though it did come with perks. Upstarts were blinded by money and would guarantee to get all his buddies' stuff too. No one was a saint, so in times when one needed help, they would be more than happy to squander money, which went double for upstarts. Alliance leader Luo and I have our differences, but I know to look past them. I give nothing but respect by offering this 12th grade spiritual weapon. Qin Hao knew those looks and grinned, gesturing to offer the scarlet weapon to Luo Yunhai with his eerie gaze. Luo Yunhai's eye twitched, hesitating as he watched that insufferable and gloating smirk. Taking it means losing this bout. Qin Hao was no guest here and barged in just to give him a gift. All signs told to refuse it, since accepting meant greed. The Luo alliance yearns for Qin society's stuff and this will strike at their reputation once word spreads to every corner. While refusing, let Qin Hao win. The guy had qualms about throwing such a beauty away, with how rare they were. But since it was all an act and made the Luo alliance look bad, the sword had lost its value. With all his goals checked out, accepting it meant a stain on the Luo alliance's name. Not taking it was playing into his hand, having robbed the limelight while also keeping his precious. The Luo alliance was going to lose some. Without a doubt. Luo Yunhai's face twitched, sighing as he spoke, Society head, I appreciate your generosity, but it's too precious of a gift to accept. It is. Then I'll be sure to bring a cheaper one next time. Ha ha ha. Qin Hao went for the kill, putting away the sword without a qualm while sending scornful looks at the people behind Luo Yunhai. Luo Yunhai glared at him hard. Qin Hao cupped his hands to the other guests and laughed. I have one more great news to bring on Alliance Leaders' auspicious day. On the 10th of May next year I shall hold my 260th birthday. Everyone is invited. You'd give me much honor with your presence there. And Alliance Leader Luo, I know you did not give me an invite to yours, but I am most willing to give one to you. Please accept it once Qin society presents it with utmost respect. I'm getting excited just thinking what your gift might be, especially how much bigger the Luo Alliance is compared to Qin society. Ha ha ha. Let's go. Qin Hao strutted out of the hall, like a winner. He finally one-upped the Luo Alliance and crushed their name. Luo Yunhai's group had dark looks, fists clenched, jaws set. The guests blinked between the sides. No one likes being dissed by an underdog. Whoosh tilde. 3 youths blocked Qin Hao, shouting, Hold up, old man. Who dares to block the path of the Qin society head? The rugged man's first reaction was to shout and attack, but Qin Hao raised his hand to hold him back. He looked closer and sneered, Look who it is, if it isn't the Luo Alliance's young miss and the 2 noble sons. What can I do for you? Luo Siphon, Long Jianshan and Xian Yenyang had been rushing for 3 months to make it to the Alliance Leaders' celebration on time, but seeing this old guy crashing the party, they were furious. Luo Siphon beamed, Uncle Qin, did you come to congratulate father? Why are you leaving with your gift then? Is it normal to bring it then take it away? Ha ha ha, dear child, it's your dad who thought little of it, so I can only take it back. I wish not to darken the Luo Alliance Leaders' day, so I chose to leave sooner. Ha ha ha, really, Dad didn't like it? Can I take a look? Go right ahead, child, but I'm sure it's nothing to fuss over. Since you're the Luo Alliance young miss, you must have seen many greater things than this. It won't look nice, being so overwhelmed over something so little. Ha ha ha. Qin Hao's eyes held nothing but contempt, then opened the box with utter glee once more, eager to see Luo Alliance young miss. Dumb look of shock. Pyrocloud's glory was once more shed into the world, making everyone's heart race. The kids stared hard as well. The lid closed shut and the world dimmed just a little. Qin Hao snickered at Luo Siphon, Young Miss Luo, have you seen something like this? You call that great? No wonder Dad rejected that junk. Luo Siphon slanted her head and smirked, your poker is SOSO, but it's natural for Dad to shun it. But looking at you and how you're really getting on in your years, but yet to be met with such cordiality at your thoughtful gift, I'll take it instead. Just leave it and go. Siphon. Luo Yunhai snapped at her. He could not take the gift no matter what, or the world would think the worst of them. Luo Yunchang and Yue were giving her obvious looks to back off. The girl ignored him, staring into Qin Hao's eyes with a glimmer in hers. Qin Hao laughed and nodded, oh my treasure is nothing to the Luo Alliance leader but quite important to the young miss I see. I just can't tell who's the blind one here. Luo Alliance leader, do you really want the gift? Qin Hao turned to Luo Yunhai, taunting, but he got no response, only a dark look. Luo Siphon yanked the box and placed it on a table with glee, enough yapping about and give it already. I told you I'll take your little bauble. Siphon, what do you think you're doing? Luo Yunhai roared, to which Qin Hao mocked, so Luo Alliance leader does care about little old Miss Gift. Then what was the point of that noble act just now? Ha ha ha. Luo Yunhai's mouth shook, about to spit blood. Qin Hao's laugh turned into a cackle. Old man, why would Dad care about some toothpick? I just can't bear to see you come all this way just to be shot down. That'll be so unfair to you. Luo Siphon snarked, we have more than enough junk like that around for the Luo Alliance to care. Even my gift ends up better than yours. Luo Siphon's hand shone and a blue sword dazzled the eyes with its azure aura. They all gasped, even the 9 sect leaders, that sword. 12th grade top, Yang Mo muttered when Dao wiped his brow, his heart stirring, not just top, but perfect. I've never seen a spiritual weapon having such an aura. It's one with the world. That's why the girl looked down on Pyrocloud. It's scrap by comparison. Everyone bobbed their heads. Qin Hao's winning look got crushed and his body shook all over in disbelief. How on earth? The Luo Alliance actually has a divine weapon like the unique ones of every land. Luo Siphon bowed, her turn to look smug, moving to present the sword to Luo Yunhai. This is Everblue, 1, 88 meters, 4, 9 kilograms, symbolizing the auspicious number 9, the best of its kind. You represent benevolence, enact justice, steer the world, and lead the people. My friends and I looked long and hard before choosing the most fitting sword for father. May you live forever and ever, father. Happy birthday. Having it pointed out, the people woke up and noticed the perfect 12th grade spiritual weapon was a best fit for Luo Yunhai's style. Unlike the raw pyrocloud of before, now this is a thoughtful pick. Does that mean the Luo Alliance has so many of them that they could spare time on these details? Are they filthy rich? Is there no bottom to their wealth? All eyes widened in shock, even Qin Hao, looking agape with his heart in pieces, curses. Now the Luo Alliance is better than the Double Dragon Manor? Why the hell are we still messing with them? Chapter 1131, Clan Conduct. Chapter 1131, Clan Conduct. Proofreader, Papatonks. Everblue's glorious aura shone in the amazed eyes of all guests. Luo Yunhai reached for it and then pointed at the box to open and let Pyrocloud's red glow shine out. It soon found that the blue sword shone brighter, overwhelming it and stealing the red aura for itself. Pyrocloud then shook and darkened. The people cried out, "How can this be? Pyrocloud degraded to the 11th grade?" Qin Hao's face shook hard, a vein snapping on his forehead as his heart raced like a dying horse. What the hell? Why would a 12th grade spiritual sword up and get degraded? Is Everblue capable of taking the power of other spiritual swords? That's insane. Everyone lit up as they gazed upon Everblue. Qin Hao's heart was bleeding. His prized sword just got bumped down to 11th grade. That's too fast a devaluation. Damn Luo Alliance, where the hell did they find such a ridiculous sword? I've never heard of such things. This was the product of Zhuo Fan's insights into vaulting swords art mixed with the demon transformation art. It not only had a mild aura, but all spiritual swords around it would be worn out from having their spiritual energy sucked out. Zhuo Fan had many sovereign legacies, with swordsmanship being among his latest. His products were bound to be glorious as well, but all people could see was the perfect 12th grade spiritual sword, so strong and so baffling. Luo Yunhai felt familiarity with it in his grip, laughing, "Great sword." The kids perked up, excited as well that their efforts were all worth it. Qin Hao sighed, about to slip away. He came to make a scene and only made a fool of himself instead. His precious gift even got degraded on top, the knife that cut the deepest. He gambled and lost everything. Wait. Luo Yunhai called out, "Society head, since you offered me a gift, I shall accept it." Qin Hao sighed, shaking his head and showing maudlin self-pity. "Alliance leader Luo, there's no need for jokes. With your deep resources, I cannot compare my paltry trinket with your divine sword. Your daughter is most correct. My sword is nothing to Alliance leader, especially now, degraded as it is. I shall take my leave and disturb you no further." Qin Hao slumped as he slinked away. "Not so fast." Luo Yunhai smiled, "Society head is too kind, please stay. It's my fault for being so busy to forget about your invitation. With society head disregarding our differences in coming to offer me a gift, I was thoughtless in receiving you. Please forgive me." Luo Yunhai bowed in sincerity, looking from him to the dazzling blue sword. Qin Hao's face twitched and sighed. Alliance leader Luo is so compassionate, with such a sort the perfect fit of a true hero. I now know why the Luo Alliance earned the respect of everyone in Western lands. It is I who offended you first. Please forgive me." Qin Hao bowed, returning the gesture. Luo Siphon was stunned. "Auntie, aren't they here to make a scene? Why is Dad? Give respect and you shall receive our undying gratitude. Take a finger, and we'll take a hand." The Luo clan faces trouble but is not cruel either. This is the righteous and benevolent conduct of the Luo clan. Luo Yunchang patted her head. Zhuge Changfeng approached. "Young miss, the best way to destroy an enemy is by making friends with him. Clan head is most suited for this, different from Steward Shuo's style. Though he used gains as lures to move others. We may have defeated Qin Hao after coming to crash the party, but we cannot kick someone when they're down and leave his dignity. Going out of line will turn him into our enemy. Clan head did so to bring him on our side, but that's his choice. Though he doesn't look the fool, and maybe clan head's intention would get to him. This will only work to further grow our Luo alliance. Luo Siphon nodded but then asked, who's Steward Zhuo? Why haven't we heard about him? He is dearly missed and grieved. Luo Yunchang sighed, sorrow taking over her. Maybe few are those that can still remember him, but some elders always hold him in respect, admiration, fear and a bit of pity when talking about him. Pity? How can they not pity a glorious hero dying before his time? Luo Yunchang wiped her tears, shaking her head. I told you mentioning him will make us sad. Zhuge Changfeng nodded. We don't mention Steward Zhuo because it would bring the ladies sorrow, only discussing it privately. Young miss can't understand. Making auntie sad. Then is he auntie's lover? Luo Siphon asked. Luo Yunchang gave an ever-bitter smile. I see him as such, but his heart might hold another. That devil, I don't even know where his body is, yet I've yet to find if he held me dear. Luo Yunchang was forlorn. Luo Siphon's eyes shone. She had no clue who this Steward Zhuo was to make her aunt, a famous iron lady, so sad even after his passing. Just what was he? Was there such a man alive in this world? Luo Siphon turned to Long Jianshan and Xian Yenyang, her gophers, and shook her head. Nah, I sure haven't found any, haha. Luo Yunhai invited Qin Hao in for a drink. Qin Hao came to crash the party and Luo Yunhai didn't like it, of course, but now that he had been pulled in, all the grudge faded into cordiality. The wine poured non-stop, the mood turning lively again. But eyes kept drifting on the blue blade. Qin Hao was no exception, cupping his hands. Alliance leader Luo, where did you get such a divine sword? Luo Yunhai was dubious as well. Siphon, where did you find this precious spiritual sword? All sound ceased, with eyes peeling and ears focused on their location. Father, we've gone through much to get this gift for you. The trio chuckled pridefully. We have gone through so much toil to meet with a master swordsmith in Swordfall. Swordfall? Qin Hao cried. You can't mean this sword came from the blind swordsmith, can you? Luo Siphon lit up and nodded. You know him? Yes, we've been looking to meet him for so long before he finally gave us a sword, even picked one best for father's gift. I was wondering how you chose something that matched my nature to perfection. So you had help, ha ha ha. Luo Yunhai nodded. Society head Qin, is there something wrong about this swordsmith? Qin Hao frowned hard. Juniors, you must have had heaven's favor to get that eccentric to give you a spiritual sword. Word first reached me about this strange man 20 years ago. I've also sent people to get a sword, but none succeeded. In anger, I tried forcing him, only to lose all that tried, Genesis stage experts no less. When the casualties reached 100, I realized this was hopeless. The blind swordsmith is not normal by any means. Later on, I heard someone even sent 400 Genesis stage experts for him, yet none returned. I'm just glad I didn't go myself into the devil's den. From then on, no one tried anything. Even if there were divine swords there, none would try ever again. One thing was certain though, that no sword ever left his hands. I just can't believe your daughter managed to pull it off. Heaven must have favored you greatly. The sword is just like the rumors say, exquisite. Everyone gasped in shock, even the kids. Talk about having the devil's luck. 3 brats did what hundreds of Genesis stage experts couldn't. The kids were just as clueless as before. Was it supposed to be that hard? The blind uncle was quite nice though. How can he be cruel when he bickered with juniors? But then recalling Qiaoa scaring away bald demon with 2 words, the trio tensed. Did we just go to hell and back? Chapter 1132, Intercepted. Chapter 1132, Intercepted. Proofreader, Papatonks. Father, I would like to know if the Luo Alliance ever had a blind member. Alliance leader, we have a grave situation. Luo Yunhai thought of something and asked, but the sudden panicked shout drew everyone's attention to outside the hall. A scout in black rushed in and kneeled. We have news from the central area that Dragon-Cleaving Sword King is on his way to kill Alliance leader. You must get to safety and survive. What? Everyone at the celebration panicked. The hall drowned in frantic voices. Dragon-Cleaving Sword King, the once best in Western lands, was coming after Luo Yunhai's head? This is a disaster. There's nothing in Western lands that can stop him. The Luo alliance was in huge trouble. Many guests had dark looks, waiting for their response. Zhuge Changfeng rushed to the scout, snapping at him, "How solid is the info? He is a sword king, not someone to stoop down to dirty assassinations. Did the Empire send him? Are they only after the Luo alliance?" "Steward Zhuge, the report says the central area has no hand in it, that Danqing Shen is doing it on his own. What did we ever do to him?" "Clan head, stewards, not to him but someone else. For he brought lads of our nation to him and asked for clan head's death. It has spread everywhere by now. Everyone calls it hate begets hate, a part of the cultivation world. Now they're waiting for the drama to unfold between the Luo alliance and Danqing Shen." Zhuge Changfeng's face shook hard at the impossible problem. This is grave. Since this was treated as a cultivator's grudge, and only after one person, no expert of the Four Lands will lend a hand, especially since the central area isn't marching on us. Luo Yunhai's death would mean nothing to the Four Lands, the impact limited to the Luo alliance, not a loss of strength, but a restructuring of power. While the four states keep their strength, the Luo alliances will crumble under the redistribution of power. Double Dragon Manor's dear wish, no doubt. Asking them to help now. Zhuge Changfeng shook his head and sighed. Leng Wuchang knew the situation was dire, his mind working hard for a solution. He found none. "Brother Yunhai, we 9 sect leaders will plead your case before Double Dragon Manor. Only the exalted can stop their former disciple now." When Dao spoke, the others weren't against it, but Qin Hao had little hope this would work. As an old adversary of the Luo alliance for years and years, he knew best of Double Dragon Manor's stance. In this trying time where a supreme expert was joining in, they all supported Luo alliance in getting Double Dragon Manor to help, but whether the help would come remained to be seen. The exalted can at best match Danqing Shen, even if they do agree. This is an assassination. Danqing Shen can sidestep them with ease. Qin Hao, having Luo Yunhai nursing his ego all this time, decided to give subtle advice. "Don't go, as they won't help since they're too eager to see you die." The others fell silent, with Wu Qingqiu making another proposal. "I was once somewhat close to the Shangguan clan. Maybe I could send them a request to help." "Somewhat. Brother Wu, you've been making constant trips to eastern lands even now, ha ha ha." When Dao snickered at his expense, Wu Qingqiu smiled as he looked at Luo Yunhai. "Well? Thank you, sect leader Wu, but going to Double Dragon Manor is still better, since this involves western lands. It would be best not to go over them." Zhuge Changfeng nodded, looking grave. "Clan head, sect leader's request will also take days, and that means delaying the old man is a must. I propose we double the guard and raise the alert of the border patrols while also sending people to intercept in between to buy enough time." A tall man popped before them, his sideburns swaying in the breeze. He cupped his hands. "Clan head, I volunteer to go and meet Dragon Cleaving Sword King." "Elder Li." "Clan head, we also volunteer." Qiu Yanghai, Shui Qingjian, along with Earth and Heaven elders cupped their hands as well. Luo Yunhai hesitated. "You are Luo clan's guardian venerables, without equal in the Luo alliance. But Dragon Cleaving Sword King is just as monstrous. Going means." "As fellow Peak Genesis experts, we would like to see what sets a Sword King apart from us. Ha ha ha." Li Jingtian made a fierce salute, his eyes eager for battle. "Clan head, allow us to go against true experts. Death matters little to us. Please allow us, clan head." The other Fao bowed. Luo Yunhai sighed and nodded. Everyone else watched the five with respect. The loyalty and courage Luo clan's venerables have is awe-inspiring, rushing by their own initiative against such an enemy. "Before you go, take Everblue with you to help. And Pyrocloud. While not up to Alliance leaders Everblue, it will help." Luo Yunhai offered his new spiritual sword and Qin Hao presented the degraded Pyrocloud. This was respect among heroes. There was a stifling mode prevalent in the hall. The five took them and cupped their hands before leaving. All felt this might be the last time they would see them as the wind howls and rain batters. "Our brave depart never to return." Qin Hao cupped his hand in complete respect. "Alliance leader Luo, you have nothing but admiration at the strength your alliance garnered, having such loyal warriors as well." Luo Yunhai shook his head with sorrow. It was Steward Zhuo who brought them. Watching them go to their doom makes me a failure as a clan head, disgracing his spirit. Steward Zhuo again? Luo Siphon was getting more and more curious. Who on earth is he? Why is he mentioned with nothing but reverence, like a saint? Her feelings were ignored in this dire time when survival was doubtful. People rushed about, laying defenses, forming patrols, anything to stop Dan Qingshan. The celebration came to a halt as the guest knew this was the last drink. Long Jianshan, Xian Yenyang, we never did see the 5 elders fight as one. It must be amazing. Let's go watch. While all were busy, she sneaked to her gophers to get them on board. Long Jianshan hesitated. The strongest venerables have never moved before. The enemy must be dangerous. Won't we get hurt by going? Scared? I am not scared. How are we going to catch up anyway? Simple, with Grandpa Li's dotting so much, I slipped 1,000 leagues scent on him in case the old man would try to avoid playing with me. We'll find them for sure with the lovesick lava. Siphon, you trickster. Long Jianshan's face twitched and sighed. I got nothing left to argue. Stop with the prattle. You're in or out? In. The brats sneaked out. Where did those kids go this time? Yua looked around and frowned. A month later, at the Western Lands border, a thin old man stood in the desert, facing 5 men. Dan Qingshan was out on a stroll, living a little, while also taking Luo Yunhai in passing. I haven't been home in years, yet I just passed the border and you're here to meet me. How may I help you? Are you Dragon-Cleaving Sword King, Dan Qingshan? Precisely. We're the Luo clan's 5 venerables. That explains it. Dan Qingshan nodded, smiling. You came to die for your lord. I do appreciate your devotion. Ding. Li Jingtian held out an azure sword while Qiu Yanghai wielded Pyrocloud, pointing it at him. We came on behalf of the clan head, but also to see the legend of the best in Western Lands for ourselves. As peak Genesis experts, why are you so much stronger? I see, martial fanatics, just like me, ha ha ha. Dan Qingshan chuckled freely. Then he stiffened, setting his piercing gaze upon the azure sword. Where did you get that? Chapter 1133, Toward the Sword Shack. Chapter 1133, Toward the Sword Shack. Proofreader, Papatonks. Pick up the pace, you two. I don't want to get there when the fighting is over. A girl ran ahead of 2 guys, dashing through the woods and holding a wiggling worm, adjusting course based on its direction. Long Jianshan and Xian Yenyang shared a worried look for the willful and obstinate young Miss Sister Siphon. Let's just stop. We'll only burden the venerables in a Genesis stage expert showdown. Say if you don't want to go, don't make excuses, you chicken. Luo Siphon huffed, speeding up. I'll just go by myself then. I've yet to see a Sword King fight. Are they as amazing as they say that not even the 5 of them together can handle? The gophers hung their heads in defeat at their headstrong boss lady. We're here. Luo Siphon glanced at the worm raising its head and lit up. She crossed a bush and a sea of yellow entered her view, with the sun's dazzling rays shining on her delicate features, her enchanting eyes. She froze on the spot. Her excitement for the fight had now drained from her face, her blood running cold. Whoosh tilde. The gophers arrived as well. Sister Siphon, wait for us, we. The duo stiffened at the shocking scene. How is this possible? As the sand blew, they witnessed blood soaking everywhere. 5 familiar figures were laying in it. Unmoving before them was an old man in blue, holding an azure sword and tracing its blade with a frown. Strange, how can there be the vaulting sword art? Why does this sword contain vaulting sword's mysteries? The exalted aren't good at refining either, while their swordsmanship isn't impressive either. Does this mean that the Western Lands has another vaulting sword inheritor? But why the Luo clan? I've never heard of anyone from Luo clan getting into Double Dragon Manor. Grandpa Li. Luo Siphon cried out in tears, rushing to him before the other 2 could stop her. Siphon. The old man paused and observed the distressed girl looking after Li Jingtian. You're from Luo clan? Why you Dragon-Cleaving Sword King, Dan Qingshan? Luo Siphon's eyes quivered, but steeled herself to meet his gaze. Dan Qingshan nodded. I am. The kids shivered, their hearts tensing. Did you do this to them? Luo Siphon was most definitely scared, but fought through it to ask. Dan Qingshan offered a snicker. Yes, this is my handiwork. Missy, you're quite brave. knowing I hurt them yet rushing over still. Aren't you scared I'll take your lives? The trio flinched and shook like leaves. Luo Siphon tightened her fists. My clan has no cowards. Grandpa Li and the others are our venerables. I am not about to turn a blind eye to them. My, what spunk. Dan Qingshan nodded. I can see the valor in Luo clan like they say. Even the kids are steadfast. I'd hate to go against you just on this alone, but I made a vow. Girl, you recognize this sword? Luo Siphon glanced at Everblue and nodded. Great, let's talk. I've come to Western lands for only one man and I'll kill any that stand in my way. But seeing your venerables so steadfast and righteous garnered my sympathy and I left them breathing. Now tell me where you got this sword and I'll leave you be as well. Luo Siphon was silent. Why's he so interested in it? Are sword kings after 12th grade spiritual weapons as well? Or is it maybe the blind uncle? I can't tell on him or he'll get hurt. Dan Qingshan snickered. Don't feel like talking? Then none of you are leaving here alive, including your elders. Dan Qingshan flexed his aura to mount the pressure. The kids were rooted on the spot, their breath stolen and their faces red. Luo Siphon gnashed her teeth. Ha ha ha, just like Luo clan, tight-lipped. Dan Qingshan's eyes shone, ramping up the pressure. I asked the old guys as well, but they just attacked and look how they end up. But why are you kids doing the same? They could at least fight while you are all powerless before me. Do you really want to die like this? Luo clan never turns its back on anyone. Luo Siphon squeezed through the pain and discomfort. Dan Qingshan was touched. He was about to go easy on them when a shout came. It's the blind swordsmith. He gave it to us. Whoosh tilde. Dan Qingshan snapped his eyes on Long Zhenshan. Who is that? He lives 3 miles out of Swordfall. The villagers know about him. Long Zhenshan recoiled under the piercing stare. Dan Qingshan nodded and chuckled. Girl, you're not bad, while he, ha ha ha. Dan Qingshan vanished. Luo Siphon glared at him. Long Zhenshan, how can you sell out the blind uncle? What if he wanted to harm uncle? But we were about to get killed. What was I supposed to do? Long Zhenshan looked crushed, muttering, I was doing it for us. It's he who will die, instead of us 5, 6, 7, 8. All the more reason we can't betray his goodwill after giving the sword. Are we that ungrateful that we sent trouble his way? Haven't you ever heard of death before, Dishana? Luo Siphon glared as she lashed at him. Who is to say 8 lives outweigh 1 life? Rumble tilde. A loud rumble approached as a 3rd-level spiritual beast-drawn carriage arrived, carrying a languid voice. Are you from the Luo clan? Get in. I want to save the blind swordsmith. Why Yuri? I've met your alliance leader once and told me who deserves to die and who doesn't. Regardless of what Dan Qingshan has against the Luo clan, the blind swordsmith is innocent. I will try to mediate. The soft voice spoke again. Have the wounded placed in a safe spot. I'll save them. Luo Siphon nodded in joy and signaled Xian Yenyang for help with the elders. Long Zhenshan hesitated, shaken up hard from the encounter with the dragon-cleaving sword king, but scarier by far was Luo Siphon's fury, and so Long Zhenshan lent a hand as well. After taking care of them, the 3 got in and were shocked to witness such beauty. Rumble tilde. The carriage rushed through and arrived before the cabin with the sign Sword Shack written on it. Its door was blown out and Dan Qingshan sat before it. His eyes shone at the dangling spiritual swords. Hearing the carriage stop, he looked behind to see a fair lady cupping her hands. Dragon-cleaving sword king, greeting. Murong clan's young miss? Dan Qingshan chuckled. I don't recall having met with brother Murong. It ought to be Wine Sword Immortal the closest with you. Miss Murong, why would you look for me? The kids got out as well and shrank in fear, while also amazed at Murong Shue. The lady must be important for even Dan Qingshan to show respect. They had yet to grasp how vast the world was, that their Luo alliance had only been around for just shy over a century. As for the Murong clan, it held power in the 5 lands for millennia, making even the central area think twice. This was the deterrence a sword king level expert brought, unlike all those countless factions. Chapter 1134, The First Steward. Chapter 1134, The First Steward. Proofreader, Papa Tonks. Taking in the sword shack's condition, and the lack of battle signs, Murong Shui relaxed and asked, "What of the blind swordsmith? Sword King couldn't have erased him already, right? I was met with a 9th grade array just as I arrived and only broke it." Dan Qingshan smiled. "Inside there are only swords. But every last one of them contains deep insights in the sword path. I didn't know such a person lived. He may very well be the best refiner, ha ha ha." Luo Siphon eased a breath. Thank heavens blind uncle isn't here. Murong Shui wasn't one to be settled with just that. Dragon-cleaving Sword King, why might you be looking for the blind swordsmith? What are your intentions? To ask some questions. That's it. Though if the answers are to disappoint, I'll be taking his life instead. Dan Qingshan squinted, his face cold. Murong Shui's heart sank. She let out a breath, knowing she could not stop a Sword King. Despite being a peak Genesis expert herself, Luo Siphon was startled as well, praying, "Don't come, blind uncle, someone wants to kill you, a top expert in the world. You have to stay away. I couldn't forgive myself if you died." Which, obviously, went unanswered. My, what a crowd we have today. It's been ages since I got so many guests at my shack. Flinching, all snapped in the voice's direction and saw a youth in white and covered eyes, his smile sinister, and a few old signatures among you as well. "Welcome, old friends, ha ha ha." Luo Siphon gasped, "Run, uncle, he wants to kill you." "Kill me, who? Aren't we all old pals? I never irked anyone here." Zhuofan had no qualms at all. "Old pals?" Luo Siphon looked at Dan Qingshan and Murong Shui, their faces so shocked they'd seen a ghost. Dan Qingshan pointed at Zhuofan, stammering, "Why are you not dead?" "Of course not. Or were you expecting a ghost in broad daylight? It never crossed my mind that you're the blind swordsmith." Murong Shui's eyes shook, taking a deep breath and turning to Luo Siphon. "Don't worry, this blind uncle is none other than the greatest devil that has walked the earth. Him getting hurt? It'll be a miracle if he doesn't cause genocide instead. Yeah, who could ever kill me? Ha ha ha, girl, know how to make tea? Put a kettle on. Me and my old friends are having a chat." Zhuofan waved without a care. An hour later, Murong Shui gave the 5 wounded pills before laying them in the shack. Zhuofan entertained the guests in a small gazebo outside. The hostility was now gone, replaced with utter calm. The kids were staring oblivious to the inner workings, slowly making their way inside the shack. Long Jianshan pulled her to the side and looked outside. "Sister Siphon, who is that blind guy? Why is Dragon-cleaving Sword King suddenly listening to his words and sitting down to enjoy old times? Who the hell is he to stand equal to a Sword King? How should I know?" Luo Siphon was equally baffled by what was happening. In any case, the blind uncle must be something else. How else can you explain these big names acting all friendly around him? Zhuofan felt 3 pairs of intrigued eyes on his back and smiled. "After a century I still get to see some old friends. Miss Murong, still a busybody like usual? I'm working for the greater good in helping the needy. Not like you know anything about that, now would you?" Murong Shui rolled her eyes and huffed, "Yet all these years that went by still can't make me forget the war, your actions, whether good or bad, whether right or wrong. That's why I have been traveling to see the world and find a definite answer. It has eluded me even now." Zhuofan smirked, "I've experienced life's trials as well, with something to show for, unlike you. If willing, come with me to see the culmination of evil and righteous in humanity. Maybe it will bring you peace." Murong Shui nodded in the end, no longer as antagonistic. "Zhuofan, did you make this?" Dan Qingshan placed Everblue on the table, staring hard at his face. Zhuofan nodded. "How? Why can I feel the vaulting sword art from it? When did you learn it?" "Over the last century." Zhuofan eased a breath. "Old Dan, I've been keeping something from you for a long time. That fight in Double Dragon Manor." Zhuofan revealed vaulting sword situation in detail. "Sorry for fooling all of you. Vaulting sword was with me, while the exalted and you thought it was with the other. This burden had been held for 100 years. What?" Dan Qingshan shook, unable to comprehend how a brat pulled the wool over him, the best in Western lands, and yet he was still the fall guy. Outrageous. Murong Shui gave him a long look and smiled. "You're really something, toying with Western lands best when you were nothing. I don't think there was anyone in the world would be more insane as you. True, that was one huge gamble that had me nervous to the core. Nervous? Yet you still took it. Where is it now? I won't return it. Dan Qingshan held out his hand, but Zhuo Fan shook his head. It's been with me for so many years, I see no reason to give it away. I'm only explaining to you and giving you understanding, while giving me peace. I mean, you did save me once and it wouldn't do to keep this from you. I've saved you years ago and you're only telling me now? I was scared you'd kill me. What about now? No. Zhuo Fan was frank like never before in his life. Dan Qingshan's beard shook wildly in anger. Curses, he grew up and now I can't do anything. The instant Dan Qingshan sensed the vaulting sword in Everblue, he knew. The swordsmith had the same understanding as him, and after seeing it to be Zhuo Fan, all became clear. Zhuo Fan was a freak of nature to begin with. Taking a century had to have made him an abomination. He believed he'd suffer for fighting. If it came to that, after grumbling for a while, Dan Qingshan hit the table and rose to leave. Zhuo Fan stopped him. Wait, old Dan, we haven't finished talking about old times after so many years. Where are you going? Screw your reminiscing. I have nothing to say to you. I need to kill someone. A bloodlust like no other has taken over me. You had me fuming mad. Zhuo Fan didn't let him go still. Old Dan, you can kill anyone but Alliance leader Luo. Do a favor for the little old me and let him go, alright? Favor. My word is my bond. Someone brought me the painting and asked for his head. How can I refuse? Old Dan, don't you find it the least bit strange? The whole world knows about it. You're being played. So what? I don't care. Dan Qingshan snapped. I have my principles. Even if we haven't fallen out, we're men of our word. You have your values and I have mine. My oath has to be fulfilled to the best of my ability. Zhuo Fan nodded in understanding. Your best. Then if it exceeds it. What are you on about? Getting killed on your way to Luo Yunhai should be called excessive, right? Dan Qingshan's face twitched. And who would? Me. Zhuo Fan spoke. Dan Qingshan clenched his fists, squinting. Why would you? Because I am the first steward of the Luo clan, Zhuo Fan. Boom. A flood of bloodthirst rushed out of Zhuo Fan, filling the earth and the heavens with a crippling coldness. Chapter 1135, Still Have the Skill. Chapter 1135, Still Have the Skill. Proofreader, Papa Tonks. Who tilde? An eerie wind blew through the world, sending fear into the hearts of every living being. Murong Shui even flinched back at her level. As for the kids, they paled instantly, shaking all over from terror. The blind uncle who looked to be in the profound heaven stage was actually on Dan Qingshan's level. Is he another Sword King level expert? But no matter how hard they racked their brains about it, no such blind expert came to mind. The newest addition was that lone-arm Sword King. Luo Siphon gasped at Zhuo Fan's cruel figure. Blind uncle is full of surprises. Dan Qingshan knew Zhuo Fan was at his level and couldn't be pushed around. He felt tense against such equal opponent, though it was far from making him fear it. You did in just 100 years what it took me 1,000. Zhuo Fan, you're one of a kind genius. You may be at my level, but we'll only end our fight in a draw. I know that most of your power is within those eyes. I may not understand why, but it's obvious you can't use them now. You have no chance of stopping me as you are. Dan Qingshan jumped and pointed 2 fingers at the sky. Following a deep rumble, the heavens caved and roars echoed out, with dragons converging on his fingertips. A power like no other fell from the sky, the destructive force covering the entire area. Murong Shui was sweating. The kids were panicking. Is this a Sword King? We've never felt this before, not even from tens of Genesis experts joining hands. All Sword Kings are out of this world. But can blind uncle stop it? The trio turned to Zhuo Fan with hope, only to see him calm as always. They thought the worse. Even he is scared stiff in front of Dan Qingshan's power. Whoosh tilde. Zhuo Fan was gone the next moment, popping just a meter from Dan Qingshan. Why is he so fast? The calm Dan Qingshan turned frantic. His attack, gathering in his fingers, was sent slashing at Zhuo Fan with a flick of his wrist. Zhuo Fan couldn't dodge at this distance, taking the brunt of the attack. Any other Sword King would never take something like this head-on, since it would cripple them, and yet Whoosh! Zhuo Fan's right hand shone scarlet and grabbed Bam. With the roars of thousands of dragons, the attack carried the might of heavens and dragons as they went for Zhuo Fan. But Zhuo Fan merely caught it with his Qilin arm. The rumbling grew in intensity, the clash sending blinding lights everywhere, along with violent shockwaves. They crumbled the earth, shook the skies and crushed mountains. The onlookers were overwhelmed. Is this a clash between sword kings? This is insane. What's with all this shaking? Is the world coming to an end? Dan Qingshun was just as incredulous. How can you take on my sword with one arm? A golden fire exploded from the arm, cutting off his words. The flames covered the sword wave, eliciting wails of dragons, while the Qilin arm squeezed. The powerful sword wave was devoured with a boom by the golden flames, while the mass of dragon power in the world around them faded out. The decimating sword art? Dan Qingshun cried out. Then a scarlet glow flicked across the air and a heavy power hacked at him. Zhuo Fan merely chopped, yet the scarlet wave felt like death to Dan Qingshun. Boom! The attack shot into the sky, erasing everything for 1,000 miles in its path. The mountain scenery surrounding Swordfall turned into a desert in an instant. The kids watched agape as the dust roiled in the sky. The landscape changed all around them, the shock almost stopping their hearts. Murong Shui was unable to believe such power existed and gulped. The cunning devil from 100 years ago became a demon archon. Who could stand up to him? Dan Qingshun's white hair fluttered in the winds. Zhuo Fan took back his hand from the side of his face and said, "Old Dan, I may not have my eyes, but my skill remains. Now can you turn back? Soaring sword art?" Dan Qingshun stared back with empty eyes. His smile turning bitter. "Yes, I can. I have no way of killing Luo Yunhai. There's no chance for me when I'm stopped by someone who learned 3 divine sword arts to perfection. None, whatsoever." Dan Qingshun looked devastated and forlorn, leaving with hunched shoulders. "Zhuo Fan, you deserve to have vaulting sword." And he left, back to central area. Zhuo Fan was just too strong for him to defeat. The first strike stopped him, but the next would end him. The brat became the second invincible sword, ha ha ha. Zhuo Fan landed as he watched Dan Qingshun go. Murong Shui no longer looked calm, shaking like a leaf. "The 4 missing divine swords ended up with you 100 years ago?" "Yes, and no. You'll know in time." Zhuo Fan walked back to the shack. The kids were silent from fear. Even shivering, Zhuo Fan patted the girl's head. "It's fine now. Go back to your dad. Dan Qingshun was beaten back, so tell him to relax." "Ah, right." Luo Siphon nodded. Zhuo Fan smiled and patted her some more before going to Li Jingtian's side. He inspected their wounds and nodded. "Miss Murong isn't stingy with her medicine, using 10th grade pills. In a week, they should wake up and recover in a month. I'm never stingy with my patients. But it's also because Dan Qingshun didn't go hard on them and crushed their spirit, or it wouldn't be as easy. Old Dan is an upright man, but in our world, sometimes you're forced to do things against your principles." Ha ha ha, Zhuo Fan laughed. Maybe he'd wanted this defeat. "Really? I didn't notice him throwing the fight. You can't keep yourself from following your heart's desire. This is old Dan's way." Zhuo Fan smiled. Murong Shui mulled it over. Luo Siphon plucked up her courage to say, "Blind uncle, do you and the Luo alliance have history?" "Haha, there may be some there." Zhuo Fan smirked, then a jade slip shot into his hand. After a careful read, his face was hard. "Girl, speak to no one about today. Act like you never saw me. When the geezers wake up, take them and leave, understand?" Everyone flinched. What's going on? Why the sudden change? Chapter 1136, Twisted Humanity. Chapter 1136, Twisted Humanity. Proofreader, Papatonks. Luo Siphon grew annoyed. "Blind uncle, you're being mean to us. How are we going to explain to them when they wake up? That dragon-cleaving sword king up and left. We have no excuse. Isn't simple?" Zhuo Fan cocked an eyebrow. "Just say you pleaded with all your being and he was touched by your upright characters so he left. Then add a little flair to the story, make it harrowing and desperate. That ought to sell nicely. That's it." The trio's faces twitched. "It's too damn obvious for anyone to believe." Zhuo Fan said, "We're the only ones who know about what happened. If you don't talk and I stay silent, none will be the wiser. You can spin it however to others, but what grounds do they have to doubt you? Besides, Dan Qingshun has long since left. But. No buts, you're not to say the truth, or else. Zhuo Fan turned cold, adding a bit of bloodthirst in his gaze. Dan Qingshun can't go to the Luo Alliance, but I can. Take it as you will. The kids shook in recollection of Zhuo Fan's godlike might and bobbed their heads. Zhuo Fan grinned. Great. I'm letting you take the credit here, and not silencing you. And haven't I told you last time not to speak about me? How come you brought Dan Qingshun to my door? The trio froze, with two of them looking at Long Zhenshan's horrified face. Oh, the chubby guy again. Zhuo Fan pulled on that tearing face, snickering. Selling me out, have you? You were also complaining last time, snubbing me. Let's settle everything here and now, hey. Long Zhenshan slumped to the ground in a trembling mess. Senior, I'm sorry. I didn't know you're so great. I am nothing to you. Please have the generosity to spare me. I'll never speak of you ever again. Blind uncle, please let him go. Luo Siphon pleaded, afraid Zhuo Fan was going to pinch his brains out. Who could say with these geezers' tempers? Zhuo Fan smiled. Your old man must have spoiled you rotten, judging by that horrified look. Conceited all the time yet a coward when it matters. Get up. Now's your time to make up for it and play the hero. Tell on me again and I'll go into your home and make mincemeat out of you. Got that? Yes, great senior, totally. I believe you can do anything. Long Zhenshan sobbed and trembled. Zhuo Fan nodded, content. With the other two kids lowering their heads, Zhuo Fan finally eased a breath and walked off. Blind uncle, you. Girl, I'm leaving. Today was but an interlude to what is to come. Take care. Zhuo Fan turned to Murong Shui. Miss Murong, are you still interested in figuring some things out? I'll show you what is good and what is evil. Zhuo Fan left. Murong Shui muttered, before following after him. The kids were the only ones remaining, looking lost. Long Zhenshan was still shaking, his face twitching. Mommy, he's gone at last. In the Double Dragon Manor, Wen Dao, Yang Mo, and other sect leaders had been at the heaven-reaching pavilion for a long time. Pacing about while waiting for a reply, a grizzled man came out and bowed. Sect leaders, what might have brought you here? Elder, we would like to ask the Exalted whether. I'm terribly sorry, but the Exalted have been gone for a while now. We don't know where they went. The old man cut off Wen Dao, his expression heavy. Yang Mo asked, when will the Exalted be back? We're unsure. They've always been unpredictable. You've all been cultivating in Double Dragon Manor and should know this better than anyone. We do, sorry to disturb you. Wen Dao shook his head and sighed. They all bowed and left. Once gone, one black and one white old man came out. Exalted Heiran shook his head. They're all part of Western lands yet we're still ignoring them in this. We'd be holding our duty if it were anyone else. But Luo Yunhai's ambition has no limit. He's been growing over these years so much that it's clear he aims for the top, going against us. His people's skills are truly formidable. All these people just now were once our disciples, yet they've taken the Luo clan's side. He must have learned Zhuo Fan's core values. Even when Zhuo Fan faked death, they still recommended the Luo clan. Exalted Heiran nodded, I know. I just got word the Qin society that's been at odds with the Luo alliance all this time got pulled into the birthday celebration. Luo Yunhai's compassion has no limit. With such a high achiever in Western lands, it brings unrest. A vicarious settlement is best. Exalted by my left while Exalted Heiran side behind him. At the entrance to the Shangguan clan in Eastern lands, Shangguan Qingyang walked Wu Qingqiu out. I'm sorry, senior brother Wu. Our venerables are set on this. It's fine. The seniors must have their own thoughts about it. Goodbye. Wu Qingqiu bowed. Shangguan Qingyang returned the gesture. Feeling helpless, Shangguan Qingyang went back in and bowed before the elders. Venerables, senior brother Wu was here and I couldn't be blunt, but now I have to know. The Luo clan is a benevolent group in Western lands, working well with ours. Why wouldn't we help them in this time of need and bring us closer together? Yang, all these years you've handled the clan, you've never done anything of import, only trivialities, and don't have perspective. Why do you think Double Dragon Manor doesn't interfere despite Dan Qingshan coming to Western lands to cause trouble? Why was it Wu Qingqiu who came asking for our help? Maybe Double Dragon Manor was in difficulty. What difficulty when it's just Dan Qingshan and not against the central area? Even if something grave was happening, it should be Double Dragon Manor who would ask of our help and not Ultimate Clarity Sect. That's, Shangguan Qingyang hesitated. The venerable sighed, his voice resolute. Younger, humanity is twisted at heart. We're not suspicious of other, but should at least be cautious. Double Dragon Manor is the head of Western lands. By going over their heads and interfering, we're undermining their authority, damaging the relation between the lands. And when Wu Qingqiu arrived, signs have already shown this might be the case. The Western lands' waters run deep and it's best we don't get involved. Venerable, Double Dragon Manor wants. Shangguan Qingyan's face fell a month later. The envoys gone to plead assistance had returned. Looking bitter and disappointed, Yang Mo cupped his hand in apology. Brother Luo, the exalted are away. Their minds maybe. They were clearly avoiding us. Wen Dao sighed, I'd never have known people could be like this if it weren't for this incident. For even the exalted to do this. Luo Yunhai and Zhuge Changfeng foresaw this and nodded. Shangguan clan's 3 venerables declined on grounds of stumbling in their cultivation. Wu Qingqiu reported this reason was so casual it left others speechless. Stumble? They've been around millennia and 1,000 years at peak Genesis stage with no sign of advancing. What stumbling? Neither side was willing to help. Who then in the Luo alliance could put a stop to Dan Qingshan's power? All had deep frowns at such a serious problem, but this trouble ended up repelled without their knowledge. The man who did it was now watching them from the shadows with a warm smile. Chapter 1137, Central Area Ambassador. Chapter 1137, Central Area Ambassador. Proofreader, Papa Tonks. Dad. In a moment of great turmoil, Luo Siphon's group came in with the wounded elders. Luo Yunhai gasped, Siphon? Where have you brats run off to the last few days? Your mother has been searching for you everywhere. Dad, we're not children. We've gone to do important stuff. Important? Luo Yunhai glanced behind them, at Li Jingtian and others. He only got utter confusion from the elders, and a shrug. Luo Yunhai turned to the kids, with Luo Siphon looking prideful. Dad, you don't have to worry about that Dan Qingshan guy anymore. We scared him off. He must be back in the central area by now. What? Everyone gasped, looking at the kids in disbelief. These wee kids made Dragon Cleaving Sword King leave? As if. Luo Yunhai asked, still out of it, Elder Li, you went to stop Dan Qingshan. What on earth happened? Are you all right? Thank you, clan head, for your concern. Actually. Li Jingtian bowed, then their faces twitched. We're not sure. Not even you. Why? Clan head, we've been unconscious from our heavy wounds. And when we woke up, we saw the kids had taken us to a bamboo shack. They say they've made Dan Qingshan fall back and the only thing we could do was come back since there was no sign of him around. No checkpoint we passed had seen him either. Li Jingtian's story began shaky and ended in confusion. Did he leave or not? Luo Yunhai looked hard at Luo Siphon. How did you get him to leave? We. Luo Siphon giggled, putting on Zhuofan's style as she wove a touching tall tale. Long Jianshan and Xian Yenyang joined in as well, ramping up the danger, the tragedy and, inadvertently, the comedy. They were sure to include any trial imaginable to any human being, no short of going to hell and back, and that's how Dragon Cleaving Sword King felt sorry for us pathetic 3 and left. Long Jianshan ended with a few sniffs, though the pride obvious in his eyes. Alliance leader, you can't imagine the danger Sister Siphon was in, but I stepped in. As if. I stepped in. Shut it. It was me. No, me. Long Jianshan wanted to paint himself as saving the damsel, but Xian Yenyang wouldn't have it. The next thing you knew, Alliance leader Luo would think of him when giving his daughter's hand. The two agreed that anything else was fine. Except this. The innocent Luo Siphon looked dumbstruck. Why fight over who lied? They weren't fighting for just some breadcrumbs, but for their future father-in-law's favor. Luo Yunhai was clearly not buying it, snapping at them. All right, already. Who told you brats that you can go into such danger? Guard, cane them 50 times, without yuan qi protection, and then ground them in their room for a month. Ah! Don't give me that. I'll make sure you won't soon forget this. Luo Yunhai had the guard take them away. At the dismay of the heroes, didn't we do good? Why are we punished? Zhuo Fan laughed at their expense, patted Murong Shue's shoulder and left Wu Qingqiu and Luo Yunhai were in the dark as to what actually happened, but their nerves relaxed with Dan Qingshan giving up. Whoosh! Zhuo Fan took Murong Shue through the forest outside the Luo alliance, laughing, the brats did it this time. They thought they could take credit. I'd have slapped them in Yunhai's stead. How could they go through such dangers, when their parents are worried sick? Ha ha ha. You sure know your way around, having been the first steward of the Luo alliance. No one picked up on anything. Murong Shue looked behind the barrier. Please, I set these up before leaving. Even if it is improved, it is done with my own work as the base. I don't need to know much about this place, ha ha ha. The good and evil you speak of. This. Zhuo Fan shrugged. Double Dragon Manor represents what's good and fair in Western lands, earning people's trust. Shangguan clan also preaches righteousness. Miss Murong must think that with the Luo clan holding the same values and asking them for help, they ought to jump at the occasion to do good. Why then the cold shoulder? Murong Shue sank in thought. Zhuo Fan smirked. It didn't get them anything by helping. The Luo clan is large and Double Dragon Manor began to have different opinions about it. Since such a prime chance came to cull it, why waste it? Shangguan clan is an upright clan, but having not gotten Western Land's boss greenlight, what would be the point of saving the Luo clan? It was ill-advised getting on Double Dragon Manor's bad side as a result. So I ask you, Miss Murong, is this good or evil? Behind a greedy heart, demons lurk. Murong Shue sighed. Zhuo Fan shook his head, hardly. Double Dragon Manor has its own issues. It has deep roots into Western lands, tied to it. Once that changed, Western lands changed. Moreover, one's nature is forever unknown. What kind of boss out there would allow an underdog to rise above it? Even beasts would do everything to drive out intruders, most of all humans. Why? Fear. Double Dragon Manor wants to do things for itself. Failing sometimes means losing one's life. Shangguan clan looked after itself just as well. By offending Double Dragon Manor they lose a strong ally. What's so bad about getting your family strong before doing good? What point is good if it can't keep you in power? So, are they good or evil? Murong Shue was mystified. Zhuo Fan laughed. Keep watching. The 5 lands are going to clash again. I'll then show you what a real disaster and calamity is all about. Murong Shue followed him still. In a gloomy hall, Yuan Yong hastily came forward to bow. Prime Minister, dragon-cleaving Sword King was thwarted. Someone stopped him, holding strength beyond his, from taking down Luo Yunhai. Oh, did those 2 geezers intervene? Bailey Jingwei smiled. Yuan Yong was grave. No. Who then? I don't know. The Sword King didn't say, only that he was powerless. I see. Dragon-cleaving Sword King's word is his body. For him to say that then it exceeded his ability. Bailey Jingwei nodded. No matter, what about the other land's reactions? Ignored. Yuan Yong replied, they all say they reap what they sow and none stepped in, not even Double Dragon Manor. Ultimate Clarity sect's Wu Qingqiu even asked Shangguan clan's help for the Luo clan, only to be refused. Bailey Jingwei's smile grew. Good, there's at least some result. Sir Yuan, ever thought of returning to Tianyu? What? Pass my order. Prince of Harvest, Bailey Yunming, in his position as Central Area Ambassador, along with Deputy Minister of War Yuan Yong are to go to Western lands and discuss the removal of Devil Palace with every land. The other 3 lands will have a renowned member from the Ministry of Rights, Ministry of Revenue and Ministry of Works as ambassadors informing the leaders of the lands of this action. Prime Minister, Yuan Yong was stunned. Bailey Jingwei waved him off, snickering, Sir Yuan, you have one other mission. Listen. Bailey Jingwei explained in the dark Yuan Yong's true purpose. Bailey Jingwei dismissed him and said coldly, understand? I'm letting you do this not to get Tianyu back, but to become lord over Western lands, under the Sword Star Empire. Thank you so much, Prime Minister. I won't let you down. Yuan Yong cupped his hands and went away with glee. Chapter 1138, Glorious Return. Chapter 1138, Glorious Return. Proofreader, Papatonks. By Bailey Jingwei's decree, the officials drafted the documents quickly, sending them to the four lands' leaders through ambassadors. As the Swordstar Empire was focused on recovery the past century, it maintained stable relations with the other lands. The lands were very much wary of this large enemy, but the appearances were kept. With some seldom cooperation taking place, Bailey Jingwei sent the ambassadors as goodwill. The four lands were welcome to refuse, but that would raise tension with the empire and lead to further problems that they would rather do without. What was the harm of one small errand boy paying a visit anyway? As for Devil Palace, they were at peace with them now, but who knew what the future held? The day might come when all the lands had to unite and remove this organization. Taking precautions for that was only natural. After careful consideration, the four lands agreed to the empire's ambassador Yuan Yong and Prince of Harvest, Bailey Yunming, took their flashy honor guard to Western lands. Unlike the other lands' envoys, they had to make a stop by the Tianyu Empire before going to Double Dragon Manor. The empire's ambassador is passing by and wants us to receive him. 3 months later, in the imperial palace's study, the middle-aged emperor, Yuan Song, lost his youthful chubbiness, thinning somewhat. He even had a mustache. He gasped as he stared at Luo Yunhai sitting across from him. Alliance leader Luo, are you sure? Tianyu isn't in the direct path between Western Land's border and Double Dragon Manor. Are you sure that's right? Luo Yunhai sighed. Of course I am, since it came directly from Double Dragon Manor. Saying there's someone from Tianyu among the delegation making a glorious return and asking explicitly for the Luo Alliance to receive them. From Tianyu? Who? Yuan Song paced about in thought. Some glory, when it's just some guised detour. Humph, I am the emperor of Tianyu. Any that have been from Tianyu are my people. But to come back as Swordstar Empire's delegate, he's demanding my respect. That's humiliating. Luo Yunhai chuckled. Your Majesty, what humiliation. This is in constant flux. Weren't you respectful when meeting me before you even became emperor? Oh, I see. Yuan Song chuckled. Speaking of, Alliance leader Luo, you were very kind back then. When Zhuo Fan seized everything, I thought I'd be reduced to a puppet my entire life. But after the Luo Alliance expanded, you returned ruling back to me. I'll always be grateful for that. Luo Yunhai said, Your Majesty, the Luo clan is also thankful for all your care back then. We both know it was an investment. Like Zhuo Fan said, having motives. But you lacked any with me, offering back the power to rule in sincerity. They just don't compare. Regardless, the kindness still remains. The Luo clan will never lord over their supporters. Yuan Song chuckled. Alliance leader Luo, no, brother Yunhai, I shall return your respect manifold. Whoever comes back to strut, I'll be sure to shower him in glory, so as not to nitpick with you. Nitpick? Brother Luo, I may be the ruler of some small kingdom, but things happening in Western lands do reach my ear. I know Double Dragon Manor is watching you like a hawk, ready to use anything as an excuse, right? I have vied for the throne and know how to handle problems. Luo Yunhai's face twitched, then beamed. After 3 more days, the imperial capital was adorned with colorful decorations. Emperor Yuan Song and Empress Long Kuei stood at the entrance. It was the highest honor given by the Tianyu Empire to any guest, that of the emperor welcoming the delegation himself, though soon found it to be given, since it came from the Swordstar Empire. Next to them stood the Luo Alliance high officials, with Luo Yunhai in the lead. All stood there, waiting until noon, when the sun was at its highest, to reveal a rumbling carriage forward guarded by an escort of 100,000 men and pulled by dozens of spiritual beasts. That's Western Lands' ambassador. Bailey Jingwei must have sniffed a weakness in Western Lands and wants to take a bite. Zhuo Fan looked at the large army from the shadows of the walls, snickering. Murong Shui said, How do you know Bailey Jingwei is after Western Lands? If it feels off and looks off, then it must be something off. The other lands' ambassadors aren't as armed. Care to know why? Murong Shui nodded. Because all other ambassadors are second-rates while only ours has a prince included. Something is bound to happen in Western lands. Zhuo Fan grinned. They say the prince is also, ha ha ha. Just watch. Murong Shui watched curiously as the procession came to a stop at the gates. Luo Yunhai's group stepped forward and bowed. I am Alliance Leader Luo Yunhai and welcome the Central Area's ambassador. I am the Emperor of Tianyu, Yuan Tsong, welcome. Yuan Tsong smiled while holding his Empress' hand. There was no reply from the carriage, though a sinister laughter cracked up. Ha ha ha, third brother, it's been ages. I almost forgot you were the Emperor. Yuan Tsong shook all over as he glared at the carriage, still in disbelief of what he was hearing. That voice. Ha ha ha, have you forgotten your own brother's voice? The door of the carriage opened and a man with sharp eyes stepped out. Yuan Tsong paled, his finger shaky. A second brother? Everyone gasped. The Emperor's second brother? It's that second Prince Yuan Yong that went missing? What's he doing back? He was being hunted for treason, and now? Third brother, you lost weight. Yuan Yong had a vile smile as he approached Yuan Tsong, patting his cheek twice. When I told you to get thin, you said you couldn't, gaining even from drinking water. How come you're so thin? Oh, I got it, it was an act. When seizing the throne, you played the innocent chubby to avoid suspicion. You fooled me and our elder brother. Now that you got to be emperor, there's no need for any pretense, is there? Ha ha ha. Clap tilde. Yuan Yong made sure to slap hard enough to swell, laughing at his expense, driven by hatred. Old third, aren't you tired of acting? You became emperor, but now what? Aren't you just a lapdog licking my boots? How dare you address His Majesty without proper respect? Long Kue shouted. Luo Yunhai scoffed, Ambassador, you represent the Central Area. Please watch yourself with Tianyu's emperor. Don't take it too far. Too far. The lord of some third-rate empire can compare to the glorious Sword Star Empire's deputy minister of war? Yuan Yong snickered. Alliance leader Luo, your western lands is martial, half of it is yours and you have my respect. As for his ex-lardness, what do you think the exalted double dragons would ever do to me? Yuan Yong gathered Yuan Qi in his palm. Luo Yunhai panicked and grabbed it. What are you doing? Just stretching. Alliance leader Luo, lighten up. I'm not about to cause trouble as the Central Area's ambassador, humph. Yuan Yong rolled his shoulder like he really was stretching. His hand slipped from Luo Yunhai's hold and sent a taunting and sinister look. Luo Yunhai gnashed his teeth, his face dark. Yuan Tsong took a deep breath, bowing while straining to hold it in. After you, ambassador. Sure, your majesty. Yuan Yong showed a malicious smile, signaling the troops, enter the city but be careful. Prince of Harvest is sleeping and we don't want to disturb him or heads will roll. Yes, sir. The army rumbled onwards with dozens of carriages. Yuan Tsong's group was filled with fury and revulsion. The Sword Star Empire's ambassador was Western Land's guest and they could do nothing against him. The same happened in the past in this nation, but regardless of the discontent, never had it been the emperor suffering for it, though this time, it was the ambassador of the largest empire in the Central Area hitting the emperor of a third-rate nation. Chapter 1139, Trail. Chapter 1139, Trail. Proofreader, Papatonks. The Sword Star Empire's delegation entered the imperial capital, leaving Yuan Tsong's group behind like dirt. Zhuo Fan nodded, to think it's Yuan Yong of all people. The former brash and reckless fool has smoothened out into a calculating man. Ha ha ha, time does change everything. The most double dragon manner can do when irate is to drive them out. For humiliating the delegation meant war with the Sword Star Empire, which none of the four lands had the nerve to risk. The Luo Alliance has no choice but to swallow this up. If it's only some rudeness, they could just pull through. However, Zhuo Fan left. Miss Murong, we're keeping an eye on the garrison. There's no way Yuan Yong came to Tianyu just to take it out on the emperor. Murong Shui rushed after him. She got so used to following Zhuo Fan, she did it out of reflex, so she could take in humanity in all its shades of grey. 6 hours later, the sun came down so the moon could take its rightful place. The imperial capital was decorated and dazzling, a different fervor setting in from daytime. At the garrison, a fat man paced around, bored as hell. Yuan Yong stepped in, bowing. Deputy Minister Yuan Yong greets Prince of Harvest. Sir Yuan, you're finally here. I'm sick of staying all day in the carriage. Yuan Yong sat at the table, with the fatty coming over like an eager child. I did what you said and didn't accept anyone's invitation. Tonight you have to entertain me. The Prime Minister had me listen to you, but you can't just turn me into a prisoner. Yuan Yong smirked, his eyes shining with malice. No worries, Your Highness, I understand your plight. You're going to love it tonight. Really? Hihi, thanks, Sir Yuan. Prince of Harvest had a knowing smile, twisting his fat fingers. Yuan Yong grinned, taking out civilian clothes. Your Highness, you're very precious and would draw attention. Change into these, then we can have fun. I'll have 2 men cover for you so no one finds out and shames us. I got it. The Prime Minister cares about this and I won't let him down. The prince changed, and was a bundle of excitement as he walked outside. Sir Yuan, you're nice. Once we get back, I'll be sure to put in a good word with the Prime Minister. Hey. The Prince of Harvest left, with 2 guards watching him. Yuan Yong's grin widened. Put a good word. Haha, how pointless. Sir Yuan, Emperor Yuan invites you and Prince of Harvest to a feast. A guard knocked on the door. Yuan Yong said, I know. His Highness doesn't feel well, so I'll be going alone. Understood. The man left. Yuan Yong straightened his clothes and set off. Zhuo Fan slipped out of the shadows. Murong Shui asked, going to the Imperial Palace? No, after the idiot prince. His pivotal. Zhuo Fan's eyes shone and Murong Shui followed after him. An hour later, there was one particular building, lavishly decorated and filled with cheerful noises. It had a plaque 10 meters high and very conspicuous fragrant manner. Prince of Harvest muttered, showing a degenerate smile as he approached. Hehe, I feel right at home. Paradise, fairies, and ladies, here I come. Prince of Harvest was like a beast in heat, going straight in. His guards grinned behind him. Prince of Harvest was soon surrounded by cherry lips as he entered a room. He waved the 2 and they offered a bottle. Prince of Harvest drank it and his eyes went bloodshot as he roared, Tonight, I'll be taking on 100 people. Who shall face me? Ha ha ha. Bam. The doors shut and moans, clamor and shrieks came out from behind it. The 2 guards stood outside, sharing a knowing smile. Our good prince likes nothing else but to engage in such activities. Hey. We're going in. Murong Shui glanced at the shut doors from the shadows and it was obvious what was going on behind them. Reddening, Zhuo Fan smirked. All the more reason we need to enter. What's the point of tailing only to give up at the climax? How obscene. Murong Shui glared at him with red ears and a hot face. How is that? I can't see what's happening in there, now can I? I can only guess based on those constant creaking and moans. How's it any different from looking from outside? Why enter then? To be on the safe side. My eyes aren't what they used to be and I can't leave anything unturned. Hey. Zhuo Fan turned to mist and flew inside. The door opened and closed so fast and so little, that the guards were oblivious. Murong Shui blushed red hot, tensing as she forced herself to go as well. The door clicked close and the guards felt something going in. But seeing nothing, they ignored it. She hid with Zhuo Fan in a corner, the degenerate sounds grating her ears. Zhuo Fan didn't even twitch. Even after 2 hours, the noises kept going strong, with the Prince of Harvest turning into an animal and howling like a savage. The girls all groaned and cried under his brutality. Murong Shui bit her lip, glaring at Zhuo Fan and whisper shouting, Haven't you found anything after all this time? I did. What? He must have taken something to have boundless stamina. Zhuo Fan nodded like a sage. Murong Shui's face twitched. I'm talking about Bailey Jingwei's scheme here. I'm looking for that as well, but I haven't found anything. What a bummer. I can only hear. Zhuo Fan sighed. Devastated. Murong Shui was fuming. Mad pervert, watch then, for I'm going. But then, a person got thrown in through the window, looking either dead or unconscious. There it is. Zhuo Fan grinned. Any man seeking relief, even if under a stimulant, would not turn into a mindless animal. What was the point? Prince of Harvest is about to go raving mad, his drink spiked to numb his mind. I think it's Bailey Jingwei's doing. What do you think, Miss Murong? Murong Shui was puzzled. What are you thinking about? Zhuo Fan asked, but then nodded. That's just nasty. I may be a demon, But I have my principles and never dual cultivated. Yet you actually. I never imagined. You, Murong Shui lowered her head in shame, rotten bastard. His toying with me. Then the newcomer stirred and groaned. Murong Shui started at the sounds. Is it that child? Siphon. Zhuo Fan sighed. The crazed Prince of Harvest picked up on the girl's voice and turned with bloodshot eyes. He howled and threw himself at her. Here comes another, ha ha ha. A finger flick hit the deranged man and he froze on the spot. Zhuo Fan lowered his hand. Murong Shui was about to go. I'll take the girl. She shouldn't be here, ruining her good name. Pa. Zhuo Fan gripped her shoulder, earning an odd look from her. Luo Siphon stirred awake and Zhuo Fan pointed at Prince of Harvest so he could move again. The pretty girl aroused all his senses, howling as he jumped her. You're tuning in to the Celestial War YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.